guy, and you know, there's nothing negative I can even consider thinking to say you're such a funny person. I wish we were neighbors and I could hang out and come over to your house and talk to you. But I was turning red during the whole time that we talked about to fall out of my chair. So you're a great person. Once again, like I say, thank you for coming on. Um, let's see. Question number 2. How many printers do you think you have owned, and do you have a favorite? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never tried an Ender 2. I've had CR10s, Ender 3s. I've never had an Ender 2. That's a cantilever, right? Okay. Still prints great, and you still use it quite a bit for a small print? And you've been in New Mexico for what, 3 or 4 months now? Oh, you've been. Oh, wow. Time flies. And I believe you brought everything down in your school bus, right? Instead of renting a big U-Haul.
Correct. The cheapest I could find for a rental truck was $4,500.
Oh, wow.
Do you know what an FU quote is?
No.
An FU, FU quote is
Oh, okay.
when a person, they don't want to be known to refuse work. So when they don't want to do a job, what they'll do is they will give a quote that's outrageous, figuring you're going to say no thanks, walk away. They didn't have to refuse the work. And if you're stupid enough to say yes, well, they're going to do the job because they're going to make a killing. So I think these companies were giving me FU quotes because they don't want people bringing moving trucks here, because here is an island in the middle of nowhere. Essentially, they'd have to fly 2 people out here to pick up the truck and take it somewhere useful.
True, because there's not a hub port where people constantly rent things.
Like if I wanted to take a truck to San Francisco, it would cost like $2,000, even though that's 1,800 miles further or 18 hours further. And
hello, Andreas. How you doing? Here's a picture of your caravan. I'll pull it up on the screen.
That's my bus with me driving the bus, and then my pickup truck and trailer my mechanic drove.
Is that diesel or gas?
Gas. I wish I could have got a diesel, but he is not a diesel tech. He's a master mechanic, but not a diesel tech. So we had to get a gas bus to make sure if we broke down, he could fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be really nice if you ever convert that into an RV. That'd be awesome.
Well, I have a different plan for it. First, it's my emergency fund. So if I get into big trouble, I could sell that for $3 or $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't get desperate and I don't have to sell it, I'm going to make a mobile makerspace out of it. So I'm going to have a workbench go down the whole length of the bus, and I'll have a few 3D printers, resin printers, CNC machine, a laser, laptop, Arduino station, different, maker things. Get companies to donate equipment and have a station for each company with a plaque above it saying, the station sponsored by such and such. And then have chairs along that, and then just a walking path on the other side. And I think that'd be pretty cool. Imagine going to a fair or a university or something like that, or an event, and being able to have people walk through the bus and see all the different technology that's available and the things you can do with it. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Wow, that'd be amazing
if I ever get to do it. My viewers said you have to bring the bus to Murph, and I was like, okay. You guys come up with $2,500 in cash for me, because it's going to cost $1,200 in gas each way. And then I need a $5,000 escrow account in case the bus breaks down so we can get it repaired. If it doesn't break down, you're great. If it does break down, I need to be able to fix it. And I was like, that's not, you're talking about a 16,000 pound vehicle that has an 8.1 liter gasoline engine. I was thrilled to get 5.9 miles per gallon.
Wow.
Because I was planning for 4 miles per gallon.
Yeah, years ago I thought about buying an RV, and what stopped me was gas mileage. You know, how much gas mileage can you get?
Yep.
And sometimes when you go on trips, you want to stay somewhere to enjoy the experience of where you're at. But now that everything is going on, it'd be better to stay in an RV and not go in anywhere you don't have to.
Yep.
Until things get better.
It's expensive.
Well, here's something I usually show every week whenever I have a stream on. We'll show you my two mascots. This is Nikita and Sandy. Sandy is a brown and white dog. I've had her for a few months now. She came from the pound, a rescue animal, and she's a terrier boxer mix, I think. And Nikita on the couch is a black Jack. She's part Jack Russell, part black lab. And the reason they're staring at me, I'm holding a treat in front of my cell phone, so they're perfect for pictures.
Like, we know how to be bribed.
And here's your buddy right here, if I could pull this one up.
There's my little kitten. That's my little, I cannot believe how tiny he was. I mean, I look at that picture and I think he was never that small. But there he is.
And we have one here, same time frame or bigger?
Oh, no. This is now, he's full size. So that was just taken a few weeks ago. So he's 12 pounds now.
How old is he?
He is 1 year old.
Oh, cool.
He was born first week of August.
Cats usually have a pretty long life, 15, 16, 17 years. So.
Like in indoor cats can live 15, 20 years, and he's an indoor cat. So I'm hoping for a good solid 20 years.
My last cat that I had, when I got her when she was a kitten, she was declawed. Her front claws were declawed, and she was only an inside cat. And though I have a doggy door for my dogs to get out, she would never venture outside. She always stayed in, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
Because every time you have a cat that goes in and out, you never know what's going to happen to them. And if they're going to come home. So you never know, things happen.
Last thing you want is something bad happening to them, that's for sure. There we go.
Did you print the full-size Captain Planet? I see you have it in the background there.
Oh, yeah. He's printed in a couple of pieces. I'm just fixing my window here. There we go. Getting that all fixed. That was printed on my Anycubic Chiron with a 1.2 millimeter nozzle using, I believe it's baby blue from Filament 1. And then I painted him with acrylic paints.
What kind of layers and infill did you have on that?
My layer thickness is 0.4 millimeter. I got to find it. He's here somewhere. I don't know where he's at right now. But I also printed him in full color on resin printer. So the artist is C Magnet on Thingiverse. He has some absolutely mind-blowing models. He's a genius at this stuff. And he broke the model up into parts for me so that I could then resin print the individual parts in different color resin. So I was able to do Captain Planet in color on a resin printer and then just glue the pieces together. So.
Yeah, Dan says his mom had a calico that lived to 21 years old. That's good.
Nice.
It sucks when animals pass away.
Yes, it does.
So I know when I had to put one of my dogs down a few years ago, my wife went with me to PetSmart and didn't go in the back room with me, and I was there when it happened. And she said, "I never seen you cry before." Yeah, well, it happens. So, it's sad.
That sucks. Now, where is the other thing I'm looking for here?
Hello, John Mack. Hello, Omar. Yeah, Robbie Mack and John Mack. Every time I'm streaming, I get their names confused. When I start talking about the banner that Robbie Mack had made for me, I keep saying John Mack, and for some reason, my brain isn't working right. Oh, but Betty Boot 45 is my wife in the other room, and she said she did cry. And now she's 46 today, so we'll just say that the 45 represents when she started getting on YouTube. So, and her name is Brandy. Anybody that's wondering. You look at my pictures here. And if people haven't seen my stream before, here's my messy room that I'm in right now. This is what my hobby room looks like. This used to be a living room in my house. It's the biggest room in my house. There's a second living room here also, which is much smaller. And I used to keep a pool table in here and never used it. And then I had a big table for company whenever they came over. But, that's only on holidays. So I figured let's make it a makerspace. So that was a perfect idea to turn this into a makerspace. And then I don't know if you can see my mouse on camera, but behind the chair down here, there's an 8-foot long table that's full of models that are unprinted or they're unpainted. They're just stacked up because like my wife says, he prints, and he doesn't paint anything, but I paint very little.
Hey, Anthony's in the stream. He's my sister's boyfriend from Pennsylvania.
Joe? Oh, he said Anthony.
And it was in my stream on my.
Oh, channel. I see. Okay, you got it to work. So we're both simulcasting.
Yep. If you're more eyeballs, that would be a good thing.
Thank you. Yeah, everybody over on the other stream, hello. Thank you. My name is Jerry from 3D Printing and Painting, or 3DHP, and I do this each and every week and just try to get through it. And then I do hangouts every week, usually 1 or 2 a week. I'll just jump on. And the first time I did it, I figured, well, I'm going to hang out for about an hour. And a few people jumped in, and next thing you know, it was 3 or 4 hours later. And now I understand how time just flies. Yeah. And then I was getting ready to stop streaming, and somebody else jumped in. So I just it didn't bother me. We just kept talking and kept it going, and it was wonderful. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, TK3D said that I wanted to call my cat Satan so I could stand out the back door after midnight calling him in. But the ex said no, so we called him Titan. I can imagine, 1 o'clock in the morning at your back door going, Satan! Satan! Come on in!
Yeah, I didn't realize that you had that fixed. So whenever there's something to read, just start talking or hold your hand up and I'll shut up. So because now we have twice as many comments to read. That's cool.
Good. More victims. Lots and lots of victims.
And now that I showed you my room, that's this big maker space, my wife's like, well, why don't you go with your idea and enclose the patio out back, and then you can put your resin and your painting stuff out there. So here's my back patio. This is enclosed under the house when I bought it. And all I have to do is put up one wall that's a load-bearing beam up top, so I don't have to I can make a simple wall and put a door in it with a window and a doggy door or a door and a window. And then I have another big room here that I can use for resin printing and painting or whatever. Just put a couple LEDs on the roof. I'm not going to tear out the stucco. And this wall that I put here, I will paint inside and out, make it look very nice. If I ever sell the house, it's just a matter of unbolting it, remove it, and patching a few holes.
Yep.
To get it to normal.
Dude, that's perfect to do it. So, that's a nice little space. And you might even be able to climate control just by opening the window.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave the slider on, and when I want to, I'll just open it. And since it's so small and it's already insulated all the way around, then when I put the wall up, I'll insulate it. I'll just have heating and cooling out there. And if I have to, I can always put a portable fan. So
very cool.
So that'll be a fun project. Thank you, Jesse Foreman. Yeah, I had Joe Telling on, I think it was last week, and I thought about doing this for a while, and he's like, you need more direct lighting on you, and if you lit up the background, so I went ahead and ordered some RGB lights. They will also move to music, so every time I talk, they would blink or change colors, and they have some kind of an IR signal. It looks like a plug for a cell phone that hangs off of them. I need to get a software program so I can control them with my Stream Deck. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. And then if somebody should ever leave me a super chat, I can push a button and they'll start blinking or something like that. That's my objective.
I got this thing. So whenever somebody donates.
Well, that's perfect.
It's a neat. It's actually an 8 gigabyte thumb drive. So you plug in the USB cable, shows up as an 8 gig drive. You copy an MP3 to it, and it plays whatever MP3 you put on there.
Well, that's cool.
Like $17 on Amazon.
What's it called?
Don't know. Let me try to find a link. Hang on.
Do they have different sounds they play?
It'll play any sound you want. It's an MP3. Oh, okay. It's like a one button MP3 player. So you plug in the micro USB cable there, and it shows up on your computer as an 8 gigabyte thumb drive. And then you just copy an MP3 onto it, and when you press the button, it plays whatever MP3 is on it.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'll investigate that. That's an easy way to. TK's 3D Print. Thank you very much. Yes, I subbed you earlier.
Yeah, I put a link in the other chat so people can log into both of them.
Yeah, the first thing I do whenever I go onto a stream to watch anybody, I leave a thumbs up. That's the first thing I do because it takes so much time for any content creator to post anything. At the very least, I give them a thumbs up, and then I try to comment when I can. Unless there's hundreds of people going by, obviously they can't answer everybody. But yeah, I try to subscribe and thumbs up to everybody and do everything I can to help people in the community.
Something else that people don't realize is that sometimes people don't want to subscribe because they don't want a channel filling up their inbox. Well, there's a way to take care of that. Subscribe to the person, then smash the bell. Except the bell works both ways. You can tell the bell, I want to see all the videos, or you can tell the bell not to show me their videos. So this way you're subscribed to them, but you're not flooding your regular stream with all of their content. So you can still subscribe without being bothered.
My inbox, I haven't cleared it out in years. So there's so much stuff, it's nuts. I need to go through and delete, which, as you know, you highlight a whole bunch, hit delete, highlight a whole bunch. It takes quite a while. But yeah. And I think a lot of people might think when they get on YouTube and hit subscribe, they might have to pay or something, which they don't. It's perfectly free. There's nothing to pay. You're not in any kind of a contract, so it doesn't hurt to subscribe.
Well, a lot of times people are becoming aware of how their actions affect the content they see. So when you log into YouTube, YouTube shows you suggested videos. And part of that suggestion is based on what you're subscribed to. So a lot of people don't want to subscribe because they don't want to interfere with that stream of content on their page. And which I understand, like there's probably I think 80% of my viewers aren't subscribed. So, that's the way it is. That's pretty normal.
Because if they're subscribed and you go live, then technically all those people subscribed would get an email stating you just went live.
Or at least it'll pop up on YouTube.
Okay, because I've got 1,700 people, and then every time I go live, I don't see that many people pop up. Yeah. So they're scheduled, they're busy, or they just don't,
It's the algorithm, how hard the algorithm promotes you, and whether or not they clicked the bell and told it, show me some, show me more, show me less. And
yeah, so, Omar had a question. What's the latest thing that we're both printing? You have anything you're currently working on?
I actually, probably tonight or tomorrow, I'll be working on it and then printing it this weekend. I got these raised cat dish bowls. It's a food bowl for the cat, but it's on like a pedestal. It's raised up. And I actually use it as a food bowl holder. So I got those little ice cream bowls. You get 10-pack, the ceramic, they're nice, they look pretty. I use those to feed the cats now that I feed them wet food. And I actually put that bowl in the bowl that's on the raised platform. This way, all I have to do is reach down, pick up that bowl, and take care of it. I realized that's easy to 3D print since I'm not actually putting food in it. I'm just using it to hold the bowl of food. It'd be super stupid easy to 3D print something like that. So I'm going to design and 3D print a dual one because I have 2 cats. And I learned that you have to put down 2 bowls of food. Otherwise, they're fighting back and forth trying to get their head inside the one bowl. So if you give them 2 bowls, they eventually figure it out and they each eat from one bowl.
I posted a video a few days ago. I tested out some red and blue G-Tech PLA off Amazon. And I got a few things I got done here that I did in it, but I'm not currently printing anything right at the moment. My wife wanted the Santa Claus, so I got a little Santa Claus here in red. And what else do I got? I got a mask here I done, but I painted a couple for a friend, and he bought one of the 2. And here's another one I did in blue PLA. Yeah. And this came out really good. I printed this on my TiVo. I do have a lot of stringing on it, but when I printed this a couple weeks ago, I had it upright on the TiVo, and I had my profile set wrong, and it got to about right here, and then I ran out of gantry. It couldn't print any higher, so I had to drop the model back through the bed and reprint the top 3 times. Yep. Whenever I have a problem, I just go into S3D, put the model in, drop it down. I kind of guesstimate by looking, and then I reprint that area. So this one, I just leaned it way back, and it printed fine. So that's the only thing I've really worked on lately. I've just been busy with, setting stuff up for future things, but I don't have nothing that I'm currently printing.
You want to try something neat. It's not a perfect print because you won't be using any infill, but that Albert Einstein head, print him with like 3 perimeters using marble PLA, or even 2 perimeters would be even better. You're going to have a couple holes here and there because you're not using infill. But then you put a light underneath of him with the marble PLA, and then he lights up. It's amazing. It's a really cool print.
Typically in S3D, my layers are always 644 with like 4% infill, and I print something like this at 0.2 millimeter layer height. Most of my bases are 0.20 millimeter layer height, and if I do a model with a lot of detail, I use 0.12 millimeter, and fingers and hands 0.10, and I always have my hands face up. Faces are always tilted diagonally back, looking up at the wall, Because if you put a face straight up, you have ringing on the face.
Yep.
If you have it perfectly level, you got a lot of supports on the chin and the nose. So I try to tilt it back to protect the model. And, you know, this one I did print flat, and I sliced this with the Corelli slicer, which is a version of Cura, and it came out pretty good. I've been tinkering with that lately, and S3D. So it's been a lot of fun.
If you don't have fun, what's the point?
Yeah. When I first got in this hobby like 3 years ago, I don't know. I think I mentioned it last week. I was watching a video. Somebody was traveling the country with his wife in an RV, and they had a little printer. I don't remember what the printer was. Then I got on some groups, seen the CR10, joined Corelli's big group. And then I seen a friend of mine over in the UK, Kevin Sharp, printing a lot of Sanic statues. And it's like, God, I got to do that. And then it was, you know, here I am 10 printers later, and the 11th in a box. I got an Ender 3. It needs a new control board I bought off a Nellis auction here in Vegas, and I've never built it yet.
It's addictive. It's very, very addictive.
And now I've got the one Elgumar's resin printer. Now I need a bigger one. Obviously, I need bigger. So it took me a long time to jump into resin, but the quality is just awesome. And now they're making resins where you can mix different resins together, so you can take the print and drop it, and it won't break. It won't shatter like glass. So.
That's common. I do that all the time. I mix. See, they have a resin called Tenacious. It's a very tough, semi-flexible resin. The problem is it's $65 a kilo. So I take regular cheap resin, you know, the $25 a kilo, $30 a kilo resin, and I mix in about 25% Tenacious. So now I'm at about like $35 a kilo, and I get not as good as Tenacious, but a lot more break resistant than the stock resin, you know, without the mix in. But yeah, you can mix resins. That's not a problem.
And I always hollow all my models, unless the part is so tiny that I don't want to try to hollow it. I'll make that solid, but I always hollow. Because if you don't, there goes all your resin. And if you know, I fill my vat up over halfway, like 3/4 full, as long as it's not overflowing the top when I start the print. And then if I think I'm going to run out, obviously just take the cap off and dump more in. And keep going. So there's one time in a year I actually ran a vat dry, and the day that happened, I knew it was going to happen. I was up during that night looking at my printers, but I forgot to add resin. I woke up and okay, the vat was dry and the print it failed. So,
oops.
Let's see. Omar says he hauls everything if I can to make silly thin walls. I think I started doing mine. I think at 0.20, something like that. Uncle Jesse did a video where he's making his walls a lot thicker, and I moved on to that, and the models are coming out better. And then whenever I have holes, drain holes, I simply take a little bit of resin and a plastic eyedropper off Amazon, put a drop or two on it, take my UV light, cure it. Once it's cured, then I just sand that over, and then it's good to go.
Oh, to seal up your drain holes.
Yeah. Just those on Amazon, you can buy a whole bag of plastic drip eyedroppers, and just take your resin in the vat, put a little drop in the hole, set it down in your paper towel, take your UV flashlight, hold it on it for like 3 or 4 minutes, and it's cured. And if it's sunk, put another drop on it. Then it's going to be bubbled the other way, and then just sand it off, and it's perfect.
That's awesome. I never even thought of that.
Okay.
Huh.
I'm amazed that I told you something you didn't know.
Yeah. The day you stop learning is the day you're dead.
Question number 3, do you have a favorite print that you've ever done, or is everyone your favorite at the time that you do it?
I think my favorite print is C Magnet's Fairy, when they had that little contest, and I did it in multiple parts, and a little fairy about this big. I did the body in gold Krugerrand from Paramount 3D, and I did the skirt in Winter Wonder Blue from Protopasta, and then I painted some parts of her, and it came out so absolutely stunning. It's one of my all-time favorite prints.
Yeah, I see on Facebook we only have 2 people watching, and I see on YouTube it says 21.
I'm trying to think of how I could find that to show you. Okay. Fairy.
Yeah, here about a week ago. Okay.
Got it. I've got a picture.
Want to share screen?
Hang on, I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay.
Actually, I have a link. And that has the pictures. How do I send that to you? I should be able to do that.
You can hit share screen. It'll pop up, and I can click it, and we can see it.
There we go. I just sent you a link in the private chat in StreamYard. Okay. And I used Atomic Ultra Green for the wings. Atomic Filament. And it came out just absolutely stunning. It just came out so pretty.
You want me to post the link, and then I can pull it up on my computer?
Yep.
Okay, so here's your link. Let me post it. And then I'll pull this up on my other screen. Let's see. Share screen.
There you go. But that just, I love that print so much. It is my favorite print. I want to do her full size. I'm trying to get to the point where I can maybe convince Protopasta to help me out a little bit, because I did the math. It would be $250 in Protopasta, which I ain't got to do her like 6 feet tall. Plus, nice. I don't quite have the printer yet to do it, because I want to do it justice. But yeah, that's one of my favorite prints.
And I posted a link in chat if anybody wants to download that or look at it.
And that's also the guy who made the Captain Planet. That's C Magnet.
Let's see. Here we go. TK's 3D print. I find if you learn the model by the time you add the supports and raise them on. See, let me just read that myself. I find you lean the models. Okay, if you lean the model and add the supports. I know that, what's his name? Chris Workhockey done a video where he was angling models in the slicer, adding supports, putting it back upright. That way the supports don't run all the way to the bed, and they just stay on the model. For instance, under the chin, it would go diagonally real close instead of all the way down. Is that what you're talking about, TK? Does anybody on your side have any questions you want to bring up or answer?
Yeah, Timothy says he has 12 printers, and Jerry said he has 8.
Yeah, for now. They'll have more.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a lot of people will get an older printer like a CR10 they bought 3 years ago. Well, I need to upgrade. I need a newer one. No, just fix what's wrong with it. Printers will last you forever if you replace the belts or the motors or whatever goes wrong. There's no reason to ever get rid of that printer. You don't have to be like the Joneses and have everything new. If it's working fine, no reason to upgrade.
I have 2 original CR10s that both have over 5,000 hours of printing on each, and I had to do nothing to them. Just clean them every now and then.
When I printed I have a few hundred models behind me that I printed, and at one time, all my printers were running 24/7. And as soon as a print got done, I cleared the bed, go to the next model, and kept printing. And my longest single print was like 10 days. But then if I cleared the bed and started another model, there wasn't really any downtime. The bed stayed hot. Well, I mean, it cooled down for a little bit, and then I started printing like a half hour later. So at one point, nothing is printing now, but at one point, everything was going 24/7, constantly.
Yeah,
and
sorry, go ahead.
With thermal runaway protection enabled on all the printers, I don't have to worry about something happening. I can go to work, go wherever. I don't have to worry about it. I've never had any kind of an issue.
Well, here I got to worry about electricity while doing that, because it's 18 cents a kilowatt.
Hello, Scott. Thank you for dropping in. Appreciate it. Scott Worthington.
That's why I always try to use Build Tack, Fake Tack style print beds, so I could turn off the heat bed. Because the printer itself doesn't really take any power. It's 40 or 50 watts. It's nothing. You know, you're talking, $6 a month, even at my electricity rates, to run a printer. It's the heat bed that takes all the power. So your printer takes like 40, 50 watts, while your heat bed takes 200.
So no marks from supports. I believe in S3D, there's a setting, dense support layers. I set to 2, and it builds like a little bridge between the print and the support. and that doesn't happen. So it all depends. It depends on your filament, your slicer, your angle. There's a lot of things, but quite often there's never support damage. It all depends on what you're doing. But I believe it's called dense support layers. I always have set to 2.
Solar is definitely something I would like to do. The problem is the solar panels are cheap. I mean, well, for me they're expensive, but relatively speaking, they're cheap. You know, $5,000 or $6,000 in solar panels, used solar panels, would be enough to provide 100% of my electrical needs. The problem is the batteries would be about $25,000. So, and that's just for a 2-day supply. And so, yeah, I could maybe theoretically eventually do the solar panels, but I can't do the batteries, and that's not including the inverters and all the charge controllers and the tie-in and all that stuff. So, yeah, for someone like me, solar is it's a rich person's wet dream. It's not super practical. I could do small scale solar, like my entire yard is one of the most lit up yards in the neighborhood, and it's all solar because I'm in a review program and I got a whole bunch of solar lighting. I even have a little 5-watt solar light lighting up my door underneath the carport. It looks real nice. And 10 foot that way is the little solar panel that charges it during the day. And but running the whole house on solar, I burn 42 kilowatts a month. So I would have to generate and store 42 kilowatts of electricity. So yeah.
A while back here in Las Vegas, there was different companies I believe were doing solar for free. I don't know how they made money, but I know you can finance it, obviously. But I used to know a lady that had solar done by her house from a company and didn't cost her anything. So I don't know if that was something the Nevada Power was paying for or the government. I'm not sure.
Well, in the early days, that was possible because they had something called SRACs. So you got basically solar credits that you could actually exchange for cash based on how much solar power you generated, kind of like carbon credits kind of thing. So what they would do is they would install the solar panels to you for free, offset your electric bill basically to zero, but you would agree to give them the SRACs. So they'd be able to exchange all those SRACs in for cash, which would pay for your solar system. I don't think that works anymore. So getting free solar that way isn't as practical anymore, which is a pity because I got so much space. And here's the other problem. A lot of times they don't want you to put the solar panels on the ground. They want them on the roof. And I don't want them on the roof. I only want them on the ground. Because I don't want to putz with my roof and have roof leaks. I've got an acre and a half of land. Use the land.
Resin printing supports. TK is talking about. Well, resin printing supports. I usually let Cheetahbox auto-generate them. Sometimes medium, sometimes small. Then I get too many. I've experimented very little with taking them away. Quite often I used to have dimples in all my models. So I forget the setting where it had like a little bubble where each support was, but then I got to go around with sandpaper and sand them all off. So I'm still experimenting with the resin printer and how to get the supports right. You can't manually add them. Or as you slice a model up, you'll see where you have an island. Whenever you have an island, put a support there. So a lot of people manually add them one at a time.
The biggest problem I run into with supports with resin is that we're printing the models hollow, which means suddenly you sometimes need support on the inside. And that's a little harder to do.
Let's see, what was the way I was doing that? I was adding supports. No, let's see. If you hollow the model before you add supports, then you have supports in the model and outside of the model. So if you add the supports first and then go hollow it, let's hope that you don't have a dead area inside where you need it, or now you're going to have a hole.
Well, that's what I mean, is that you have to begin to recognize that, okay, this inside area requires support.
Yeah.
See, with a regular FDM, you just use infill. And what is infill? Infill is basically interior support.
Yes.
All right, so your support is always there. But when you're printing hollow on a resin printer, it's typically truly hollow. So there's no infill, which means there's no internal support. So what wasn't a problem on your FDM printer becomes a problem on your resin printer if you don't recognize that.
Well, it depends. A lot of people have great luck with Cura. I've always used S3D. I've just started tinkering with Cura. So would you like to answer that? You probably use Cura a lot more than me.
I don't use Cura at all. I use Simplify 3D.
Okay.
Okay. It is absolutely entirely possible to get equal quality prints from Simplify 3D, Cura, Idea Maker, Prusa Slicer, etc. The difference is how much work you have to do to get there. With Simplify 3D, it's part of the name, Simplify 3D. It does most of the work for you, and it does a damn good job of it. The biggest advantage for me for Simplify 3D is consistency. I know exactly when I click that setting, when I change that toggle, when I move that slider, I know exactly what it's going to do, exactly where it's going to do it, and exactly how it's going to do it. Which means I can open up Simplify 3D and go click, 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 and I'm done, and I know exactly what I'm going to get. It's consistent reliability. Cura is not so consistently reliable because it doesn't do as much of the background automation that Simplify 3D does. So you have to do that work and select those settings to get it right. It just takes a little more groundwork on your part to get it right. But I've seen people make prints with Cura that look absolutely stunning. That's the Mandalorian.
I'm not sure what print my wife's talking about. Somebody mentioned about a print behind me, and I'm not sure what they're talking about. Here's a Mandalorian. This is from Tony Chambers. Tony Chambers had this commission over on 3D Model Crowdfund on Facebook, and he commissions a lot of beautiful models. This is currently, I think, on sale for like $10, if I believe it. On my Facebook group, he posted an ad the other day, and all their models are on sale right now. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun printing and painting. And my dog won't get off. Get down, doggy. But I'm not sure what print they were talking about behind me they wanted to see. I have so many.
As a content creator, that's actually a problem I run into a lot, is that I see these models behind a paywall. You know, you have to buy them, or you have to be a part of their Patreon to get them. And I'm not, and I can't. You know, people don't realize that this isn't a hobby for me. This is my livelihood. This is how I make my living. So I can't just, willy-nilly, buy $200 worth of models, because I have to somehow make $200 to get that $200 in models. And, you make a video. Yeah, but each video only makes like $4. You're going to make like $4 or $5 each video at my level. So that one video is never going to make enough to pay for everything. And, and I also, it's a moral quagmire as well. I refuse to ask the artist to give it to me, even though many of them probably would say yes, because I just think that's wrong, because that's their livelihood. That's how they're making their money. So that's just not morally sound to me. And then I refuse to join a Patreon for 1 month and leech their models and then cancel, because again, that's morally wrong. Now that is pretty badass.
Yeah, quite a few models I used to get off Thingiverse, and I would buy them here and there on Sanix's website or Game Body. And then a lot of designers, when I used to post on Facebook, I'd post on like 12 or 13 whatever groups, multiple pictures. When I first get done printing them, and then when I paint them, I'd repost. And then a lot of designers started approaching me. So pretty much, not everything, but there's a lot of designers will give me whatever I want for asking, because they know that I'm going to do a lot of posting and publicity for them, which helps them out. And then I get the model for free. So,
well, see, that's different though, because you are providing a value add. Yeah. A significant value add. You're printing them, you're finishing them, you're painting them. That's a significant value add. What you're doing is going to cause people to want to buy those models.
Yeah.
I'm not going to finish models like that, at least very few of them, because it's just outside of my skill set and time set right now. So that's no problem for you doing that, especially because number one, they're approaching you, and number two, you're providing a value add. You're basically doing what I do for printer manufacturers. I provide a value add to the printer manufacturers, so they don't mind sending me printers. You provide a value add to these model makers, so they don't mind sending you models. So that's a symbiotic relationship. What I want to do is not be a parasitic relationship. Is that a red Hulk?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a red Hulk.
Here, let me make it full screen. You see it better? Yeah, it could have been a purple Hulk or a green Hulk. But yeah, there is a red Hulk in cartoons.
Huh.
At the time that I made him red, I didn't know there was a red Hulk, but I just picked red. But that came out really good.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Jeez.
So, yeah, I mean, I got so many things that need to be painted, and then I never used to print in colors where most people were printing with colors because they didn't paint. So recently, when I got the Ender 3 V2 from Creality, I started doing more printing with colors, things that I'm not going to be painting. So, and like here's a vase I did. This is done in Ziltech PETG in base mode. And what's cool about this base mode, because PET has a lot of give, I'm not crushing it. It's kind of like, feels like TPU basically. Where if I did this in PLA, I'd go like that and I'd break it. So,
little trick for you for printing vase mode in PLA: over extrude.
Okay.
So do a multi-process. So do your bottom layers, your normal way. And then when you get to the point where you're going to switch to the single wall vase mode, you can do that in Simplify 3D. Tell it to extrude at, 1.5. And you'll basically get the equivalent of like a 0.5, 0.6 wall thickness. The print will still look fantastic and it'll be ultra strong. Thank you, TK. I appreciate that.
TK is a designer?
I guess so.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I have bring up my the child. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, where you have to be careful with that moral line.
Oh, here it is.
So that's a full-scale child. It was supposed to be one piece, but the 5-kilogram roll fell off the holder and jammed. So it ended up being 2 pieces. And well, I found this on Thingiverse and I posted it, and I made resin models and this big model, and then suddenly a guy comes on and says, "Hey, that's my model." And I'm like, "Well, no, that's his model." Well, apparently someone had taken it from his Patreon and reposted it to Thingiverse. Big no-no.
Wow.
Not much you could do about it. Now, thankfully, his name is Inkspire. Inkspire is the one who made this model. And, he was cool about it. I was like, well, that means I do not rightfully have this model. Are you okay with me using it? And he said, no problem. But and I would have stopped if he said no, because, well, I didn't get the model legitimately. Somebody had stolen it and reposted it.
Yeah, that's a big problem. And people that aren't online that simply buy a printer and they start printing stuff off Thingiverse, they may be printing stuff that's the STLs were stolen and posted. They have no idea unless they're online in groups, and then they realize it. But a lot of people innocently download them and print them and don't know any better.
There's no way to know. There's no way to know.
Yeah, unless
you spend. I know Inkspire, and I didn't know it was from him.
Here's a really cool print here that he did.
Yeah, that's Zelda. That's heavy. That's over 2.5 kilograms right there.
Wow.
Yeah, I could beat somebody over the head with her and kill him.
About 30 inches tall or so?
Yeah, about 2.5, 3 feet. About 3 feet tall. So yeah, it came out real nice.
That's nice.
Again, that was with the Chiron with the 1.2 millimeter nozzle using Ziltech Texas rolls of white PLA. Once if I ever manage to get this shed up, the third person who looked at it turned down the job, so I'm back to having no one to finish it. I got like $3,500 paid out for this damn shed already, and the guys quit. They just left. It's like,
did they frame it up, or are they taking an old building and they're trying to restore it?
Brand new. So I got 3.5 walls put up and no roof.
Wow. No idea. They just left one day at the end of the day and never came back?
No, not even the end of the day. Midday, they left and took all their tools. When I came home and I was like, all the tools are gone. That usually means they're not coming back. Michelle said the two of them got into a big fight and they left. So I think him and his partner had a breaking apart. And sadly, I think it was partially my fault. Not my fault like I did something wrong, but I think I created the conditions that allowed that to happen. The one guy, he never applied for unemployment. He didn't know he qualified, because typically self-employed people do not qualify for unemployment. So he wasn't aware that he qualified, and he didn't think his girlfriend made enough to qualify, and I corrected that. And I actually spent a couple days doing the research and walking him through the process. And, I helped him set up a bank account so that he can get the money right away. And instead of having to wait, a month and a half.
Take care, Omar.
No,
I was just trying to say hi to the comment because I don't want to interrupt you.
So I helped him get $24,000 in back due unemployment, and he took that money and split.
Did he still owe you work for the money invested?
Well, I paid for 2/3 of the shed, and then they didn't build it. I mean, I still have the materials.
Wow.
All the materials are here, but I can't put up a roof. I could build walls. I could finish the wall. I could put the door in. I could put the wall insulation in, but I can't do a roof.
Is there any kind of trusses, or is it just open right now, open to there?
Just open.
Okay. I wish I lived there. I'd come over and finish it for you, but I don't. I'm down there.
I could barely go up a ladder. I certainly can't get on a roof. So I don't know.
I love VR. I've got a Vive and a Odyssey. I love to play in VR. I haven't played in a while, but I love VR.
What I think I'm going to have to do is take the 2x6s that I have and bring my platform up into the shed, if I can fit it through the doorway, and just screw the 2x6s like every 12 inches into the roof, and then cover it with a tarp, wrapped around those 2x6s, and then stand up 2x4 beams inside at each 2x6 to make the roof strong enough to handle snow until spring comes.
Look on Facebook, Marketplace, and Craigslist where you're at, and you'll probably find somebody to do it. Or talk to your neighbors. They probably know somebody to do side work.
That's what I've been doing. The problem is we're getting into winter's coming here. In a month and a half, it's gonna be winter here.
Well, it only takes a couple days to get that finished.
Well, the problem is they're booked up.
Oh.
So the one guy said, he's booked up 2 months from now, and he just won't be able to get to it before winter. My neighbor 2 doors down, he was going to try to help, but he just has too much work. He only has 1 day off a week, Sunday, and it's too much work for him alone, and he doesn't have a second person to help. And then the third person, they don't want to deal with any potential liability. Even though I told them I understand it's as is where is. I don't hold you responsible for someone else's half finished work. They're still spooked about taking on basically what's someone else's liability. So I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I got $5,000 sitting out there, and a loan for that $5,000 that I got to pay off. And all I've got left is the $1,200 that I was going to pay them when they finished. You pay for the material up front, and then you pay them the rest when they finish.
Let me pull up a picture. Here's a picture of your property. Where's it at? There's the side of your house, right?
So right where that car is, that's where the shed currently sits, except up against the house, of course.
Oh, I see the grass you're talking about. Everything's like that. So if there's a fire, that would burn like a match. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now, if you look at the other picture, the aerial view from the drone, you'll see what I've done to mitigate that. So now you see how there's no grass on the entire right-hand side of the property. It's all asphalt millings, to create my drive. Well, I'm hoping if the second stimulus check comes through, that's what I'm going to use it for. I'm going to put 1 more truckload of millings and create a 5-foot path around the left-hand side of the house. This way I'll have a 5-foot fire break around the entire house. So if there's ever a grass fire, it won't get to the house.
What are you on, about an acre and a half there?
Yeah, 1.25 acres.
Okay.
So I have all the way, see that mowed line next to the trees on the left? That's basically my property line right there. And I have all the way back to those, you see those short little trees in the back behind the bus?
Yes.
It goes all the way back to there.
Okay.
So 1.25 acres.
Yeah, my property in front, I had 2.5 acres. It was 330 by 330 square. And I put up that green fence with, what do you call those posts? You drive in the ground with the pounder. You pound in those stakes. And I put green fencing all the way around the property.
T-rails.
Yeah, T-rails.
Yeah.
I was having trouble thinking of that.
I would love to have 2.5 acres. And oddly enough, most of the lots on this street are 2.5 acres. Me and my neighbor are the only ones with 1.25. But the reality is it's plenty. Hi, kitty.
This is Albuquerque?
No, this is when I believe this was when, no, there's water. That's not Albuquerque. This is when I went to Murph. And I flew into Baltimore to go to Murph. And that's coming into Baltimore. So you're looking at the Baltimore Harbor and whatnot.
All right.
Layla Mario asks, what's up with the bus? Well, the bus is my battle wagon. When I was going to move here, if you could bring up the picture of our convoy, when I was going to move here, they wanted $4,500 for a moving truck, like a Penske, rental truck. And I said, F you. I bought this 40-foot school bus for $2,800.
Wow.
So not only was this bus $2,000 cheaper than a moving truck, but I get to keep it. The $4,500 you spend for a moving truck is pissed into the wind. That money's gone. You don't get it back.
Yeah.
So now I got my moving truck to make the move out here. You can see it's packed to the ceiling, and it literally was packed to the ceiling. And it actually didn't have that cut down the side. I did that.
What year is it?
2002 Bluebird B7000.
Wow. That's not old at all.
No, it's not old at all. There's not a spot of rust on it. It runs like an absolute top. It didn't give me one single problem the 2,100 miles out here.
You had good tires on it, or you put new tires on it?
Here, I'm going to turn you up. I thought you were too loud, but apparently you're too low, so I turned you up. Yes, I had to put all brand new tires on it, and thankfully I did that in Pennsylvania, not here, because here that would cost an absolute fortune.
Yes.
These tires are $500 or $600 each.
Yeah, like 8-ply or something.
They're truck tires. They're semi tires. Yep. They're 10R 22.5s. Let me know if that came out better, Pygar. I turned them up. So I had to put all brand new tires on it because the bus had retreads. As a school bus, that's fine because it's never going fast and it's never going far. But every single person I've talked to who has way more experience than I do told me you do not want to make a 2,000-mile cross-country trip with retreads, especially if you're going to be heavily laden. So for $600, I got 7 tires. No, I bought 2 tires, and then I got 5 more. So for $600, I got 5 tires, and I got an extra rim. So I replaced the 2 front tires, then I replaced the rear 4 tires, and I put together a spare so that I would have a spare tire, in case I got a flat.
How big is the gas tank on that? Like 40 or 50 gallon?
Actually, yes. 60 gallon, I think, which kind of sucks because you got to stop pretty often for gas. If I had 1 year newer, I would have had a 100-gallon tank. 2003, they switched to the 100-gallon tank for the buses. But 2002 and backwards, they typically came with a 60-gallon tank.
Yeah, I was a delivery driver for 10 years before construction. I've never driven a bus before, but I've driven big trucks.
The Dairy Queen and Grill is right at the end of my street, 0.6 miles away.
And here's a picture from Murph or Earth.
Yeah, that's from Murph, I think. No, Earth. It's the stadium.
I recognize Josh, but I don't recognize the other 2 gentlemen.
I believe those are some of my fans.
Okay.
Some of my critter victims.
Yeah, I watched a ton of videos on that. Josh was live streaming, and I've seen everybody with all the different interviews. That was really fun to watch.
It was pretty cool. I don't know if you guys saw it, but my tablet video actually came out. That's my table at Murph. I had that tablet there set up on a stand, and I told people press record and leave a message, and I would make it into an episode. That actually worked out pretty well. I'll definitely do that again.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen next year, but if things get better, I want to save up the money or take my taxes and fly down there for a couple of days. Maybe my wife will go and I can visit, meet everybody. I think it'd be great. Just talking to everybody online is wonderful, but it'd be great to fist bump or elbow bump or something and talk in person. It'd be a lot of fun.
If it's within my financial means, I would like to drive to Murph just because I'd like to bring stuff for a table. But Earth, I can never drive to. It's a 6-day trip.
One of them's in Illinois, right?
No, Indiana.
Okay.
It's in Indiana. And there's my table at Narcon. That's what I do. I make those nose cones and stuff like that for rockets.
Cool. Very nice. But I've only flown, I think, 1 rocket in my life, 1 or 2 when I was a kid. Then when my son was little, something I guess I should get into, or at least I could make for a video or something. There's a dry lake bed out by Boulder City, clear across town, where there's a huge dry lake bed. I forget the name of it, but there's a place I could shoot them off at.
Colin asked what my current most used printer is. Maybe you as well. My current most used printers are my Ender 5s. They probably get the most hours on them right now. What's your current most used printer? Since
I have my new CR10 V2, I've been printing a lot of stuff on it, or my Tevo Tarantula Pro. That's one of my go-to printers. I've got Octoprint set up on most of my printers so I can sit here and control it from my screen instead of turning around and moving 5 feet. I usually do it from my desk. But I just pull out the SD card on the Tevo, pop it in, and my Tevo works great. The Tarantula Pro, I've had 0 issues. Even though I got it free last year and done a review, that's not why I'm still plugging it. I think it's a great printer. So, and I have CR10s, obviously, but it depends how big the print's going to be. If it's going to be something fairly large, I put it on one of my 2 CR10s. If it's really big, I'll put it on the Hypercube, which I'm still dialing in because I had some trouble a few weeks ago when I was printing with some black Sunlu PLA. I had a clog out of the blue. I had some problems with it, so I've got to figure out why. So,
Layla asked, do you earn any money with your 3D prints?
No, but everything is for sale. I'm retired here in Vegas, and I've already burned up all my credit cards, and I owe $1 zillion. But at some point, everything, I need to get an Etsy store going within the next, hopefully, 30 days, and I'll start selling things off as is, or painted or unpainted, post one here, one there. I might do multiples on a few things, but everything I do sell, if I ever do more than, say, 5 or 10, I will contact the designer that I know on Facebook. I'll make sure it's cool with him. And whatever he says to me, I will save that in a notepad so there's no problem. And whenever I post on Etsy or somewhere, I always list the designer, where it came from. That way, nobody's trying to hide anything and everything's publicly known. But I do need to sell off everything I got. Facebook, Marketplace. I don't know if a yard sale would ever work. I don't think so. But yeah, everything's always for sale.
Yard sale, you're not going to make any money.
Yeah, it'd be my neighbors come by and go, well, that looks cool. I'll give you $1.
Exactly.
And if you ask a quarter for it, they said, well, can I have it for free? I mean, no matter what you say at a yard sale, it's never cheap enough.
I don't currently make any money from my 3D prints. Right now, my money comes from Patreon, Amazon, other affiliate accounts, and YouTube. I currently pull in about $650 a month. It could be as low as $5 because of the pandemic. It's pretty bad. Used to be closer to $1,200 a month, but the pandemic hit pretty hard. People just aren't. My money comes from people spending their money. So people aren't spending money, therefore I'm not making money. And I do plan to expand that. I have a Teespring store with some stuff up there. I have the Patreon, of course. I do plan to eventually sell 3D printed parts, for example, rocket parts and rocket kits. I'm hoping eventually nylon becomes affordable, that I can just abandon PLA altogether and Petchy and just go with nylon. That would be nice because it's basically indestructible. But he asked what road I live on, and I live on Pinon Road. Layla asked what Pinon means, and I was replying to TK when he asked. He's trying to find me on Google Maps. Yeah, it's basically a short pine tree.
I have an MP CNC, mostly printed CNC out in the garage. I built an enclosure, done a few videos on it. I have not put the firmware on it yet. I got lazy when it started getting hot here in Vegas, and I need to get the firmware going on it. So, and I want to start making signs and possibly etching plastic and selling those. I just haven't got it finished. And now that I see people are getting into lasers, like you have a laser, Jim, Walter from Country 3D, Jim from Edutech. There's so many cool things being made on cork and on tile that I want to get a laser soon and start making things and selling them. So
you can get one of these for $100, $120. These are not expensive.
Full screen, yeah.
Yeah, these are dirt cheap. And these are dirt cheap. This thing is great quality. Ortor is a good company. I like them a lot. Now, this has to do with what this is, not the company it's from. These things are bloody effing dangerous.
Yeah.
Nobody should have one of these in their household unless they understand what they're doing. This should be treated like a firearm. You should treat this like a loaded gun whenever it's plugged in. Because if that laser beam hits your eyeball, you're blind instantly. Not temporarily, not flashed, you're blind. You're done. Your eye's gone. So please be careful with these things. As long as you understand that and you're careful with them, these things are amazing fun.
And that even goes for walking up to it, watching your print, have on your goggles or protective something.
And make sure you have a closed room. For example, there's only one hallway my sister can get out here in, and I have, whenever I'm using the laser, I take a pair of these laser goggles and I hang it on the thermostat in the hallway there, so she knows if those are hanging there, put them on before coming out here. Because even the reflected light can do damage and blind you permanently.
And make sure your animals definitely don't look at it. And then,
I was going to show you the dice I made, but I got knocked over. I downloaded 6 different Star Trek emblems, and I lasered them onto a cube of wood. It came out pretty cool.
We got a hi, Brian. Is Brian Vines here, BB3D? Or a different Brian? The blink rate for those lasers is 0.10 for a second.
And you can't blink that fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, you know, somebody using a cutting torch and you look at it and you look away, or they're welding, you look at it for a minute and you kind of look away and you got like spots on your eyes because it wasn't good for your eyes. Or you can't stare at the sun. Don't ever, obviously, everybody knows you can't look at the sun and stare at it because you're blind from it.
Except now you can. There's so much smoke in the sky, you can actually look at the sun.
About a week ago here in Vegas, I walked outside and I couldn't see the mountain right by the house, and it was all gray. It's like, what the hell is going on? The fires in California, it's just unreal.
Travis asked how Ender is doing. Ender is doing well. He's recovered from the UTI, and he is now on a strictly wet food diet, which should prevent another UTI episode. Basically, cats are carnivores. Dogs are omnivores. Cats are carnivores. They only eat meat. Cats don't eat anything but meat. And a significant amount of their moisture comes from their kills when they get something. So when they're eating, they have a suppression of their drink urge. So as long as they're eating, they don't tend to drink too much because they figure they got it from their food. Well, if you combine an indoor cat eating dry food in a desert environment, well, yeah, it's very common for cats to have UTIs out here. And they are particularly lethal for cats because, they die very fast. She said that if he stops peeing, you have to bring him in immediately because he'll be dead within 48 hours if you don't take care of it. And the other issue is that cats cannot repair their kidneys. Once their kidneys suffer damage, that's it. They're damaged for good. So he's strictly wet food now. And so far, no problem. He's good. Expensive as hell. It's $60 a month in food, but she also told me I shouldn't be feeding him 2 cans a day. I read that I was supposed to give him 1 ounce of food per pound. So a 12-pound cat, you get 12 ounces of food. That's 2 5.5-ounce cans. But she said 1 should be sufficient. So if 1 per cat is sufficient, then it's only 2 cans a day, and that's only $30 a month. That's not so bad.
Yeah, there's a baby I printed off of Thingiverse. I think I got it from a while back. I forget the man's name that designed it, but at the time that I posted all over Facebook, I listed a link and where it came from.
If it's the same one who designed mine, it's Inkspire, but I'm not sure if that's the same person who designed that.
Yeah, I don't remember. I ended up printing 2 of them.
Layla says she has a 1 Ender 3 and 1 Ender 3 Pro. What should be my next printer if I want to print something higher? Well, depending on how high you want to go, if you just want to go a little bit higher, I suggest going with the Ender 5. It gives you 235 by 235 by 300, I think. I think it's got a 300Z. It's either 250 or 300. I think it's 300. And that will give you a bigger build volume to play with an absolutely fantastic printer. Otherwise, go with a CR10. Get a CR10S Pro, the original one. You could probably get them for like $400, $450, and that'll give you a 334. I call it a 334 because it's 300 by 300 by 400 millimeters. Anycubic Chiron is also a good printer. That'll give you a 444 print volume, 400 by 400 by 400. And both of those are very reliable, very consistent printers. Well, 16 years is pretty damn good. That's really good. Most cats have a lifespan of about 4 or 5 years. Most people don't realize that cats are actually very short-lived creatures. That's why they procreate so without abandon. And that's the first snow at my house. The first year I lived here. So I was only here maybe 4 months, 3 months when I took that picture.
You got your drone up, right?
Yep. That's what I'm holding in my hand, and that's what's taking the picture.
I remember you had a fire. A neighbor had a fire, and you had your drone up, and you had it on Facebook. You were filming the whole thing.
Yep, that's on YouTube. It's very scary.
Was many people hear it buzzing, and they were looking up to see where it was coming from?
Oh no, nobody even knew it was there.
Okay.
So it's right here. Here's the drone. It's a little tiny thing, and if I'm over 100 feet, you won't even know it's there unless you're paying attention to it.
Yeah, I've never flown up very high. I mean, or outside at all, and or with goggles, FPV. So it'd probably be pretty easy to get disoriented on which direction you're flying. You're flying away from when you're coming back. You got to reverse your controls, basically.
Bring up the drone shot of my property again. Here, TK. Here's how you can confirm. That's what the house looks like.
So type snip on your desktop, and you can snip that picture and then print it out, and you can look for it. Yeah, just don't go by at night, or something bad might happen.
What?
If somebody ever tried to visit.
I eat people, so
Yeah.
I got lots of land. I got 4 freezers and I got 6 barbecue grills. I eat people.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if you guys ever seen it, that was based on a true story.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Supposedly.
You want to talk about how freaky the internet is? For example, I estimate next year it'll no longer be possible to hide where I live, because the very next time Google Maps updates its satellite images, everybody will know exactly what house I live in, because my property is extraordinarily unique and well known online. So you can't hide 40-foot Connex containers, carports, and a 40-foot bus. But when I was getting the house, like for example, I bought the house as is, where is, sight unseen. My real estate agent was amazing. She climbed through a back window to get me pictures of the inside of the house. And well, I posted a picture of the front of the house, kind of like that drone shot in the snow. I posted a picture of the front of the house showing, there's no front door. I brought my front door from Pennsylvania with me. And within 30 minutes, like 14 people sent me a link to the listing for the house with the address. It's like, holy shit. All I did was post a picture of the front door and people found the house. Wow.
Yeah. Brody has a question. Have you ever 3D printed a rocket body, or you always use cardboard tubes?
I always use cardboard to some extent. I have printed full airframes. If you go back to my table picture, you can actually see one of the rockets I designed. So my table at Narcon, with all my rockets sitting on the table.
Oh, okay. I'm sitting there looking on spacing. Right here.
So if you see that orange one right there, just left of the big white one, that's all 3D printed. So that's a continuous curve airframe. What's his name? Mech G helped me model that. I designed it. He made it real into a model. That's going to be a kit I will sell. But even that still has a cardboard tube going up the center. So like this tube right here, the one on the right with the black nose cone, that tube is going up the middle of this orange rocket. And that's because the plastic can't handle the ejection charge coming from the motor. The motor itself and the ejection charge are too hot. The plastic will reach deformation temperature and your rocket will fail. So this white rocket here in the middle, everything on this rocket is 3D printed. The centering rings are 3D printed. The nose cone is 3D printed. The fins are 3D printed. The engine retention lock on the back is 3D printed. Everything's 3D printed except the 2 paper tubes. The paper tube inside and the paper tube on the outside. And that's because, well, you use the right parts for the job. And in this instance, paper is the correct part for this job, because it can handle the heat from that momentary ejection charge, while the plastic cannot.
Are those tubes bought specifically for rockets, or do you use? I don't want to be dumb and say to use like Christmas paper tubes. Those are probably too light.
Actually, I used to use Christmas paper tubes. They were great until the manufacturers got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, until the Christmas tubes suck now.
And then packing tubes where you have the white ends for mailing stuff, those are pretty sturdy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about the dimensions.
Doesn't matter. You have a 3D printer.
Yeah, you can just make it big or small as you need.
You customize it, baby.
And all parachutes are always made out of plastic. You've never tried any other type of material, or always plastic?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm thinking about the parachutes. I'm thinking of the kid when I was a kid.
Yeah, they're plastic, but I use nylon parachutes.
Okay.
Just because I love building rockets. I even like finishing rockets. But there's one part of rocket building that I hate with an absolute passion. I don't know why. I just despise it, and that's making parachutes. I just hate making parachutes. So I tend to get pre-made parachutes or nylon parachutes put a snap swivel on them, and I just move the chute from rocket to rocket.
I would say a big round piece of plastic, but it has to be tapered for each corner so you have a point to attach your string to, right?
Yes. TK, wait a minute, did you say you're going to try to land on my road? Don't do that. It's too narrow and there's wires crossing it. There is Sandia Air Park just a couple miles away. You could probably land there.
Astro Printer says, Chris, I got some NASA stickers if you want some.
Are you brain dead? Hell yes, I want NASA stickers. In the description of my video, you'll see a address, a P.O. Box. P.O. Box 842, Edgewood, New Mexico, 87015. Oh,
thank you, Astro. Very nice of you.
Oh, that's right. MSFS, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah, I remember after 9/11, Microsoft was talking about how they were going to cripple their simulators so you couldn't fly into buildings and they wouldn't be very sophisticated so that people couldn't try to learn on that and then try to hijack something. But since 2020 came out, I think they finally got past that and they're making it more real and lifelike. I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube and they look pretty awesome. The graphics, the terrain on most cities is just unbelievable.
If they really think changing their software is going to change the damn thing, they're insane.
Yeah, it's not
like,
going to.
It's like okay. You probably, if you have time, bring up a Land O'Lakes butter package. All right, Land O'Lakes removed the Indian from their packaging, so now it just says Land O'Lakes without the Indian.
David Petzel is in chat. He's asking D-size engines.
Yes, D-size. I've flown up through K. I've thrown up through K.
Next week, guys, David Petzel is going to be on my live stream. We haven't set a date and time yet, but it's probably a for sure thing going to happen. And he's done a lot of RC work. I mean, he has lots of RC planes. He's an entrepreneur, restaurant owner over on Thingiverse. All the Pets Fangs that you printed out for a lot of your printers, like I have, they're called Pets Fangs. That's from David Petzel. He's a designer of those. He's a great guy, and he's done so many different things that he's into. That'll be a fun stream.
Here, if you want, bring up this video and play this video. This is my level 2 rocket. This is what caused me to get into 3D printing.
Are you putting it in private chat or on the screen?
Private chat. There's
okay.
a YouTube. It's a YouTube link. But bring that bad boy up and play that. You'll like this.
Okay, 1 second.
It's only 1 minute and 12 seconds. It's pretty short. This, by the way, was a dash camera bolted to the rocket.
Let me share screen.
That is in Pueblo, Colorado. And that is going up on a K550. And there's the chutes popping at 5,500 feet AGL. And if you watch this in full screen, later on, you can actually see the smoke trail behind the rocket as it takes off. And you can also see, what's his name? I think it's Mike. He was flying my glider, and I caught the rocket taking off from the glider as well. It was probably the most angled filmed level 2 launch ever. I had ground cameras and handheld. There's the glider. You see the glider on the right there? And so I had every angle of this rocket going up, and I built this right on the field. But that was a K motor, and that was the rocket where the nose cone cost $50, and I was like, never again.
I went skydiving twice, so I know what that experience is, that ground coming up on you right there.
It landed in the only damn bush in the entire field. Literally, the only bush within 2,000 meters. And that's a K550 Sparky. I love the Sparky motors.
There it is.
There's a couple of shots where you can see the glider.
That's cool.
It's fun. I use 2 parachutes, so you can see one's attached to the back of the rocket and the other one's attached to the front. And that's why you get this really super stable video where it's not spinning out of control. And we're coming up to where you're going to see the glider in a second here. Bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And it's a white glider. You'll see them bank away and turn away. There it is. That's my Radian glider. He flew it for me. But yeah, that's what I want to do with my 3D printers. I make rocket parts.
That's cool.
Yeah, another thing that's a pain in the ass is making centering rings. When you have to put one tube inside of another tube and you need a centering ring to center them, they're a pain in the butt to make. Well, now I got lasers and 3D printers.
Richard and Brian from the First Layer have put some videos out over the last few weeks where they built some rockets and they flew with a club in Canada, and those are really cool to watch. And Brian had a camera mounted on one, and then he lost it. I guess it was on a magnet. He didn't have it tethered to the rocket, and he lost one of his cameras. They've done some couple cool videos. Hello, Ben Brady. How you doing?
Hey, Brady. He's in my stream a lot. I
He's,
recognize.
Lives down in Texas. See if we got any pictures here I haven't shown. I think I've showed all of them.
There's a couple of exterior shots showing the area. A couple of, scenery shots.
Oh, yeah. Let me find them.
Got a couple of those in there.
That looks really beautiful.
Now, that's the moon, not the sun. That's captured with my cell phone. Amazing what a modern cell phone can do. That's actually the image on my business card for Life of Nerys. But it's a beautiful shot. It's just I got lucky. It came out real nice.
And here's one here. I believe you're there. You live in?
Yep, that's at the end of the road. At the end of my street is Quail Trail Road. It goes up to Church Street. So you're seeing the dirt portion and eventually becomes asphalt at Church Street. And that's just the way the clouds are coming off the mountains there. It's just beautiful. And this is at 7,000 feet. I live at 6,800 feet. So what you're seeing is not mountains. What you're seeing is the tops of the mountains. And this was right after I came into, this is the first picture I took in New Mexico. So that picture of the convoy, that was in Texas right before New Mexico. And this was after we crossed over into New Mexico. And there's Groot taking point in the front of the bus. I printed out a big wood PLA Groot and stuck him on the hood of the bus.
And anybody that's joining us late, here is his convoy right here when he moved to New Mexico. You told me a story the other day when we were chatting, and I about fell out of my chair laughing, but I made a comment. We were talking about the police or something and being pulled over, and if you're doing nothing wrong, and they always ask you, where are you coming from? Where are you going? Well, guess what? It's none of your effing business where I'm coming from, where I'm going. Because if I'm not doing anything wrong, they don't need to know everything. And you told me a story. Could you repeat that one?
Sure. I have a bunch of those because, the New Jersey has a lot of small towns with their own little sheriff departments. And I tell people the police aren't law enforcement. They're the SRS. They're the State Revenue Service. They're there to make money for the state. And, in New Jersey, when you get pulled over, you worry. When you notice it's a state trooper, you calm down and relax. Because state troopers, they're all business. They don't screw around. New Jersey state troopers aren't going to mess with you. It's the local cops that you have to worry about. So it's about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving my 1994 or 1992, I think. Yeah, 1992 E150 Club Wagon, my blue van. I love that van. And I'm doing 45 miles an hour. The speed limit is 50. Okay. The reason I do 45 miles an hour is because if I hit 52 miles an hour, the van will enter overdrive. I can then slow down to 45 and it'll stay in overdrive. The slower you can go in the highest gear possible, the more fuel economy you get. I actually ran the numbers. I drive 55,000 miles a year. Doing that was saving me about $1,200 a year in gas. It's quite substantial. And the road is empty. The only car I saw for the last 30 minutes was the cop, and he was going the other way. Well, his suspicion boner got turned on, and he turned around and pulled me over. And I was like, why did you pull me over? And he's like, well, you're going a little slow. And I was like, that's illegal. But anyway, give him the paperwork. He's like, where are you coming from? And I was like, that way. And he's like, well, what's that way? And I was like, whatever's not that way. And he's like, you trying to be smart with me? I was like, no, it's not my job to do your job. All right, you're asking these questions to try to dig up information, to try to catch a lie, to try to create probable cause is what they're trying to do. And I was like, and that's not my job to do your job. And where I've been and where I'm going is need to know information, and you don't need to know. I was like, it's pretty simple, and I'm trying to be humorous about it. But if you want me to just tell you to go mind your own business, I didn't tell him that, but that's where it was going. He takes my information, he goes back to the car, he comes back, and he's talking. At one point, he asked me, he's like, well, this vehicle could be stolen for all I know. And I looked him straight in the face, and I says, then you're telling me you're a moron. He didn't like that. He took a step back, hand on his cuffs and guns, like, what did you say? I was like, you're telling me you're a moron. Or you went back to your car, masturbated, and did nothing with all the information I just gave you. It's one or the other. Because assuming you ran the information that I just gave you, then you know for a fact this van is mine. Because you saw the VIN number, I saw you look. All right, you've got my registration, you've got my plate, you've got my insurance, you've got my ID. You know I have no record, you know I have no tickets, you know I have absolutely nothing on my record, and you know these plates match this van, which matches this documents. So either you're a moron, or you did nothing with all that paperwork when you ran back there, or you're still fishing. I was like, and again, it's not my job to do your job for you. He then says at some point, he says, well, where are you going? And I turn my head and I go, and I smile, and I could see him die inside. I could just see his soul die because he realized his mistake and he knew exactly the words that were going to come out of my mouth. And I was like, that way. It was great. Oh, just, he's like, well, just go faster. And I was like, when can I expect your check? And he goes, what? I was like, I saved $1,200 a year driving slower. This thing gets 12 miles to the gallon. I do 45, I get 14 miles to the gallon. 2 miles per gallon times 50,000 miles adds up to a lot more than you think. I was like, so when can I expect your check for the increased gas usage? Oh my God. That's what they do. They pull you over, they jerk you around, they fish. The stop's illegal. He has no legal authority to stop you, but he also knows you can't do anything about it. I mean,
David Petzel had a question here that I missed. What camera do you have on that rocket that you filmed that went up?
That rocket had 2 cameras. And the video from the other camera only lasted a couple of seconds, and it's on there as well. But typically the way I do my rockets is that you'll have the rocket body, and you don't want to just slap a camera onto the side of the rocket. That's going to be sticking out there, and it's going to get snagged. Unbalances the rocket. So I came up with a new thing. I put a hole in the side of the rocket, the shape of the camera, the size of the camera, and then I put a piece of tube through that hole and seal it to the other side. So basically, inside the rocket, there is a tube that is crossing the inside of that tube. So the gases can go around this interior tube, and now the camera is protected from any of those gases, the ejection charge when it fires. Well, on that rocket, I had 2 cameras installed. I had a Kodak, remember the early days of high-def camcorders? You had those cell phone-shaped cameras. They were flat like this with a screen on the back and lens on the front. They look kind of like, a cell phone, except, they weren't back then. Because back then it was flip phones and stuff like that. So I took that one and just had it stuck inside the rocket like this, and the lens was sitting here. And then as a backup camera, I took my dash cam. And I originally bought dash cameras for my rockets. It was one of the more affordable ways to get high definition cameras at the time. And so I had that bolted to the side of the rocket. So that was a flat camera like this with the lens on the bottom. So I just took the a 1/4-20 screw through the inside of the tube into the mount on the camera, and that held that camera on. Well, it's a good thing I had 2 cameras on there, because when the ejection charge fired, it penetrated the camera tube. And let me tell you, the egress of that camera was quite volatile. It shot that camera off the side of that rocket like a cannonball. 7 days later, we found it sitting out in the field, and the damn thing still worked. I couldn't believe the thing still worked. But, of course, I eventually learned the problem with those cameras is that they use AA batteries. And if you jar a device that has a AA battery hard enough, those AA batteries are held in with spring force. So you have a little spring tab and a tab on this end, and the AA battery pushes against the spring. Well, if the G force is strong enough, You know, if that instantaneous G-force, such as an ejection charge, is strong enough, it can actually cause it to compress and rebound off that spring just the tiniest little bit. And that little bit's enough to turn off the camera, just like that. So you have to make sure that the batteries are perpendicular to the flight path of the rocket, so that that jarring force pushes the battery sideways and not against the contact, which will pop it loose. Or you have to make sure you have a plug or soldered in battery, because otherwise it'll pop free. I also have the distinction of having the first 4K video from onboard a rocket. My what was it, the I don't think it was the Note 2, I think it was the Galaxy Note 3. Whichever Galaxy Note was the first to have a 4K camera. I actually mounted a 4K camera inside the rocket, and it actually worked, but one problem. The picture was clear, then the motor lit, and the picture was all blurry, and then the thrust ended, and then the picture came back. Anybody know what happened? Well, I can tell you what happened. The little lens has an actual moving lens. It has an autofocus. These cameras have autofocus, so there's a little piezoelectric motor that moves that lens back and forth to get you your autofocus. Well, mounted this way, the travel direction of the lens is parallel to the travel direction of the rocket. So under the G's of liftoff, it overwhelmed the torque of that little piezoelectric motor and yanked the lens all the way to the front where it was blurry.
Wow.
And it wasn't until the rocket stopped thrusting that the piezoelectric motor was able to bring that lens back and bring it back into focus. So now what I did was I would mount the camera this way on the rocket so that the piezoelectric motor would still get overloaded, but it would get frozen in place instead of pulled forward. And then I used a 90-degree prism, like a, what do you call that scope you look through to see around a corner? Periscope. But it's just a 90-degree prism lens that I would stick in front of the lens so it was looking down. So that was fun.
Ben Brady says they got our RC flying come up in the third week in Albuquerque.
Oh, that'd be cool to go to. If you could send me a link for that, please do. I wouldn't mind going to check that out, even just to take pictures.
How far away are you from Albuquerque?
Half hour. Well, it depends on what part of Albuquerque. You know, the eastern edge of Albuquerque is 25 minutes away.
You stay on the west side.
Yeah, probably the west side, because Rio Rancho's out there, and that's where they have all the open space. You know, it's about 40 minutes to an hour away. So I would probably have to take the minivan to go see that, because the electric car won't make it to Rio Rancho and back.
Ben Brady's foot's about to fall off. He's got problems.
He's got to take care of it. Gangrene's bad news.
Yeah, I think Ben Brady is like 62. I think, aren't you, Ben? Around 62? I know I ran a beard for a while, and I was looking a lot older, and I, scratching my face all the time. Oops, I got you on full screen there. There we go. I had a beard for about 4, 5, 6 months, something like that, with my goatee, and I looked really old, so I shaved it back off. So
Layla said, we don't have this in Belgium. We only got cops. Well, that's because most of Europe holds their cops accountable. The cops are actually there to do a job, and when they don't do the job, they have consequences. In the United States, we don't have consequences for cops. They are pretty much shielded from all wrongdoing. They could literally walk up to you, blow you away, and the news will say it was your fault and the cop was justified. And people say, well, that's not common. You're correct. It's not common. Tell that to the person who gets blown away.
Well, yeah, I think it's in New Mexico where they had really high, the crazy speed limits. We pulled off in a little town going to Texas, and the speed limit was like 13 miles an hour. It's like, what the hell is 13? I've seen 5, 10, 15, 20, but it's like 13 or 14. It's a really odd number in some little town in New Mexico along the highway. It's like I've never seen a weird speed limit like that.
Neither have I.
In Texas, on the highway, a lot of the speed limits were like 85. It's like, damn, I don't want to do 85. I have enough doing 70, 75. I don't want to do 85.
Most of the speed limits around here are 65 to 75.
And then at night in Texas, it's one speed, and daytime, it's another speed.
Qualified immunity, that Colin brought qualified immunity up. Qualified immunity is legitimate. I mean, you can't have a cop being dragged into a lawsuit every single time he does his job. Qualified immunity makes sense. The problem is we've extended qualified immunity to willful ignorance. So when I interact with a cop, it is expected that my knowledge of the law will be perfect, or I will be held to account for what I do. But when a cop interacts with a citizen, they are permitted total ignorance. They just have to have a good faith, belief that they were doing their job. That's exactly backwards from what it should be. The citizen should have the lenience and the understanding, and the cop should have clarified understanding of what he's doing. So people say ignorance is no excuse for the law. Well, first of all, that's bullshit. Ignorance is no excuse for the law is a court-fabricated concept that is not based in any form of law. Ignorance is the only valid excuse for the law. Besides things that should be common sense, don't hurt, don't steal, don't murder, how can you possibly be expected to comply with a law you're not aware exists? Ignorance is the only valid excuse for the law. And our courts have arranged it because how dare the citizen say, I didn't know. So that's a court-fabricated BS. And yet, cops are permitted total ignorance of the law. They can pretty much do whatever they want, and qualified immunity will apply.
When I was younger, I had a big GMC Jimmy, jacked up really tall. It had 40-inch mutters on it and a really high lift kit. I took the springs and had them completely arced as far as they could be bent. And the headlights were eye level on the truck. I had trouble getting in and out of it. It was so high. And a cop pulled me over, and I got harassed for the height. And I moved the headlights down. And then another time I had a problem, so I had to go print out the law, carry it in my glove box. So if they want to harass me about their own law, here, read this. Here's what it says. So,
today they would ignore that printout and say, you just made that up, and they would harass you anyway. And they'd get away with it. So,
And probably my favorite. Sorry.
It's our fault. It's your fault. It's my fault. It's all you viewers' fault. It's all your fault because it's apathy. We permit this to happen, and we don't do anything about it as a society. And so it gets worse. Remember, power does not corrupt. That's a myth. It's fiction. It's not true. You know that saying, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely? That's fictional. Okay? Power doesn't corrupt. Corruption seeks power. People who are corrupt will seek out the highest level of power they can acquire in order to exert their dominance over people below them. That's just what corrupt people do. The whole point of a system of checks and balances is to be able to catch that happening and stop it. We have abdicated our duty as citizens to do that.
Let me jump on to my next question since I kind of gave up on them. Question number 4 out of 7. Do you have any other hobbies that you're interested in other than free?
Rocketry, RC airplanes, drones, photography, cooking.
We had a comment earlier. Do you have a telescope? Because you probably, if you're not near a city, you can probably see the stars at night, and it looks great.
Oh, yeah. It's got a nice sky view here. Back in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, you could look up at the sky like this, and you probably had more fingers than stars. Here, it's just like, wow. Because the only major city near us is Albuquerque, and it's on the other side of a mountain. So the seeing, as they call it out here, is fantastic. Exactly. This year, New Mexico pissed me off because one of the reasons I want to come here was the beautiful seeing, the beautiful sky. And of course, the 1 week of the year that a naked eye visible comet comes by, it's cloudy every night.
You remember 4 or 5 years ago over Vegas, a satellite was burning up, and I'm driving down the street to look at Christmas lights, and me and my wife pulled over, and it's just going right across the sky, and it's like a fireball. It's like a meteor coming in.
Very really cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. You have to see that.
Too and awe, but by the time I thought about taking out my cell phone, it was gone.
Yeah, it's quick.
And question number 5. I think I know the answer to this. Most people may not. Are you married, have kids, and pets?
Nope. Never married. The other person with me is my sister. I take care of her. And we have 2 little furry murder machines, Ender and Noel. They're kittens.
And do you have any teasers on upcoming projects you might be doing videos on, or anything you might want to share, or no?
I am starting to... I still have to finish cleaning this up to get my proper table in here. Eventually, this will actually be 180 degrees, and I'll be facing that way, my table here, and I'll be sitting over there. That'll eliminate me having to have a covered window to keep the sunlight from coming in. That'll solve that problem. And I just got to get rid of all this cardboard. And but I plan to start making videos for my Rocketry channel, and I'm also starting a new channel for all the gadgetry I'm getting. I have I'm in a review program, which I won't name because I'm not supposed to, and so I get stuff for free. And I make reviews. So that's how I got things like these $50 video lights and this absolutely badass, freaking ridiculous, stupid. It's so stupid that it turns over and comes back around to awesome hard hat. It's got a fan. It tells you the temperature. It's solar powered. It's got two 18650 batteries inside. You can use it as a battery bank. It has a Bluetooth speaker inside. There's a flashlight on it. This thing is just freaking awesome. And so I'm starting a channel for that. I'm going to call it Gadgets, Goodies, and Widgets. And that'll be where I do all that kind of stuff, because the way I make my money is when people use affiliate links. So
I took your advice when I talked to Chris the other day and we chatted. He mentioned I should get a Patreon going, and I'm like, well, I don't make models, I don't design things, and he gave me a perfect idea. I print and I paint, and even though I'm not a professional at it, there's a ton of content that I could post on Patreon that people would enjoy seeing that I haven't done videos on. So I did set up a Patreon the other day. I've got a few videos up there. I need to get more content, and at some point, I have a designer overseas that's going to be printing a little mini me. It'll say 3DP on it, and people can print it and run over it with their car or do whatever they want with it. But I'm thinking about putting that on my Patreon, so people that join my Patreon will get that model too, along with little content here and there that I may not. And then if I print models and I go to post them on my social media like I do everywhere, as most people know, I'll put them on there first, possibly a week in advance. That way people can see it or ask questions before I post them in other places. And then I got a hold of GearBest, AliExpress, and a couple other companies. I've got 2 out of 3 affiliates that I have to add to my channel. The third one, I'm waiting to get email back from them. Then I can go into Facebook, because to edit, it takes forever editing a video and going through all your videos. Yep. So I need to do that here soon. But on your advice, I really appreciate that. Everybody helps everybody, and we never start learning. And I'm really amazed at all the things you talk about, and you can remember that, because at 56, there's so many things I do on a daily basis I forget. And you just have so much information, like a photographic memory. You know everything about everything, and I'm really amazed to hear all the things you talk about.
I tell people I sound smarter than I am. Okay? First of all, I don't believe in IQ. I think it's a lot of BS. I have an extraordinarily high IQ, and what good has it done me? Okay, I make $12,000 a year living in a manufactured home in New Mexico. But then again, I did survive and get here. So who knows? But the point is, I know a lot. I have a ridiculous amount of information in this head. But it's a little tiny bit of information about a whole bunch of topics. So, besides rockets, photography, and 3D printing, I know a little bit about everything, but not a whole lot about anything. I'm an information sponge. I am the kind of person who will sit down and read an encyclopedia because it's entertaining. I'll get to page 670 and go, oh man, I never knew that. That's cool. And I'll promptly forget it, of course, and move on to the next page. But it's just so, because I know a little bit about a lot, it makes it sound like I know a lot. But in reality, it's just because I'm an information junkie.
Yeah, my income from pension and construction, I make like $3,400 a month. And my house payment and my insurance, which is subsidized by the government, Affordable Health Care Act, that eats up most of that right there. That's like $1,600. And by the time I pay a few bills, by the 15th of every month, I'm broke. Yeah. So all the stuff you see behind me, that's running up my credit card twice. And then I'm basically broke. So when I get free things or a donation here or there, $5, $10, I am so happy, because that immensely helps me out. And I don't ask for donations, but I will pop it up on the screen, or I'll have links. And when people help me out, it's awesome, because I'm not living high on the hog. I'm like you, I'm kind of barely surviving. I make more money than you do, but it goes out in bills with my house payment and other medical bills.
But you have more expenses than I do as well. So
last year I had to have surgery like 2 years ago, and a bunch of bad things happened, intestinal problems and surgeries. And I paid off all my medical bills last year. I was really happy. And then an issue came up this year, or in January, where I had to run back to the ER and then they transferred me to another hospital. I was only there 3 days. Now I'm deeply in debt for how many years making payments. So it was great being debt free. I mean, on that, not my credit card. So yeah, whatever I can do to make extra income and build myself, and the same with you also, that would be awesome.
Well, you got 6 more years, and then you'll be free of that.
Well, when I'm 62, then I'll get a little more money.
Well, when you're 62, you can get on Medicaid. Now, something you need to talk to whoever you talk to, because you have to do this right. If you fuck this up, you're screwed. All right? Medicare only covers 80%. Now, there are supplemental plans that you get that cover the other 20%. So your medical care is 100% covered. No exceptions. The only thing you got to pay is the copay when you go see the doctor, the 30, 40, 50 bucks when you go see a doctor. That's all you got to pay. Everything else is covered. But there is a small window. I don't know exactly when it is. If it's 60, 62, 64, there's a small window of time where you can apply for this coverage and you cannot be turned down. They cannot require a inspection or a health examination, and they cannot turn you down. During that window, you can apply for it and you will get it. It's like $250 to $300 a month. So that plus whatever your Medicare is, and your health care is 100% covered.
So that's when I'm 62 to have that small window.
Yep.
Not before, but once I turn.
Yeah. So make sure you're ready to take advantage of that, because that will end your medical debt issues. Your medical problems will be done because everything will be 100% covered. If you get a bill, you just forward it to the secondary company and they take care of it.
In my videos, I mispronounce a lot of words because when I was younger, whenever I had a toothache, I didn't want to get a root canal. I couldn't afford it. I had the tooth pulled. Well, I had that done too much, and I have very few teeth in my mouth now. And if I laugh, you're going to see a black hole. I have some bottom teeth, and that's it. And I don't ever smile. I usually frown. That's just my natural look. So if I ever get teeth, I might be like Jerry Lewis or something. And then I can do a video on it with all my teeth talking about what happened. But yeah, I'm not proud of it, but that's how it is. I can't eat walnuts no more, or almonds. I love almonds and pistachios, but I can't eat them right now unless I put them in a blender.
I almost overdosed on almonds.
Wow, how?
I didn't know that was even possible.
No, I didn't either.
Apparently, almonds are actually toxic.
Huh.
But it's so minor, it's not an issue unless you eat too many of them. So I was driving. I decided to take my Geo Metro to a Narum to save fuel. Bad idea. Never do that again. Lack of air conditioning sucks. So I kept getting drowsy, falling asleep, and I discovered something by accident. If I am actively masticating, if I'm chewing on something, I don't fall asleep. It's almost like the brain knows, okay, you cannot fall asleep while you're chewing because you'll choke. So as long as I was actively chewing something, I did not fall asleep. So I had a whole bunch of these cracked pepper salted almonds, little packets. And so I would bite half of one and I would chew it for a minute, and I'd wait a minute, and then I'd bite the other half, chew it for a minute. I did that for like 4 hours. And when I got to my destination, thank you, Betty Boop. Something was wrong. I couldn't describe it really, but I mean, there was something wrong with my body and my brain that I couldn't quite put a finger on. And I was coherent enough to recognize something was really, really wrong. And I sat down under a tree. My buddy we were starting to get worried. I was like, I think I might need to go to a hospital. They're like, there's something really wrong with me. Something's not functioning correctly. And about a half an hour later, it cleared, and I was fine. And my buddy came over and said, "Are all those packets in your car what you've been eating?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a bunch of almonds." And he's like, "Almonds are toxic, dude. How many did you eat?" And I looked it up, and sure enough, you eat too many almonds, it can hurt you. I didn't know. So that was a really weird feeling, man. It was like, I don't know. It was like my brain was in a cloud. It was just a really weird feeling.
I know when I used to go grocery shopping last year quite a bit, I don't know if it was my blood pressure or not. It was kind of like everything was cloudy in front of my eyes. I was aware and I knew what I was doing walking around, but my vision wasn't quite right. And I'm thinking it might have been my blood pressure. I'm not sure.
You want to see a really good example of how you could be absolutely skunk drunk without a drop of alcohol in your blood? Look up some ATC videos on people experiencing hypoxia in airplanes. Wow, that's some scary stuff.
Okay, jump down.
Yeah, Astro Printer just posted. You obviously you made that appear. But yeah, it's funny, Layla asks, "Is it so expensive to live in your country?" I guess it depends on how you look at it. It is possible to live cheap in this country if you have a leg up and if nothing goes wrong. The problem we have is that the primary problem we have is that our basic wages in this country hasn't changed in 100 years. So our cost of living has gone up, our productivity has gone up, and our expenses in life have gone up, but our income has not gone up. If you look back at 1920, you'll see the average person made like $3,348 a year. Now, if you take that and you adjust it for inflation, it's I think it's $48,000 a year. So the average income in 1920 was $48,000. The the median income today, because average doesn't mean a thing, median is everything. The median income today is $50,000. So $48,000, $50,000, and now we have property taxes and school taxes and wage taxes, and some things are cheaper and a lot of things are much more expensive. So our cost of living is anywhere from 300 to 700% higher, but our income has remained essentially stagnant for 100 years. And that's because we don't adjust minimum wage to be what it's supposed to be. Minimum wage was created to be a living wage. I mean, if you're giving up your life to a company, I argue with the cats. If you give up your life to a company 40 hours a week, you're working full time, that company owes you, in my opinion, enough to survive. Not luxury, not a lap of excess, but minimal survival. And we don't do that. Which is why we've moved from a country where dad works, mom stays home, raises the kids, to a country where mom and dad are both working 2 jobs each. Because, our cost has gone up 300 to 700%, and our wages have remained stagnant. The result of that is not good. And then you have the medical problem in this country. Now, you see, we don't have health insurance in this country. What I have and what he has is not health insurance. It's health care. And the problem is the way insurance works. I mean, think about it. You pay, $700 a year for insurance on your house. If your house burns down, they cut you a $200,000 check and you build a new house. How can they do that? Add up how much that $700 check is. Assuming you buy a house when you turn 18 and you die at 70, add up $700 a month for that intervening time, right? It's not even close to $200,000. So how can a company afford to cut you a check for $200,000 for something you're paying $700 a year for? Well, it's very simple. It's called distributed costs. If you look at the picture, you'll never profit from an individual. But if only one in 100 houses burns down, then you in reality, you only need 1 in 7 to break even. So anything better than 1 in 7, and you profit from house insurance, even as you're cutting people $200,000 checks. Because for every house that burns down, there's 10 that don't. Okay? Now, here's the problem with healthcare. I'm going to convert house insurance to healthcare. Now, imagine if every single person's house burned down one time in their ownership. No matter what, you buy a house, at some point in your life, that house will burn down, guaranteed. 100% burn rate. Could you ever have house insurance?
Take care, David.
See you later, David. Well, no, you can't, because you have to collect enough from each person to pay for the check you're going to cut them, because you have a 100% burn rate. So that's not insurance. That's a savings account. And that's exactly what people would do. They would cut the middleman out, your profit, and just put the money in a bank account for when their house is going to burn down. Well, that's health care. Okay, health insurance? is that, $250 a year policy you get that has like a $2,000 deductible and only covers things like, cancer, broken leg, major injuries. That's health insurance. What we have is health care, right?
Yeah.
And health care is something everyone will use, which means you have to charge more than the cost of the service in order to make a profit, which is why
Yeah.
healthcare should be universal, not privately paid for.
The people on Facebook that made that comment, the person here, I don't know who you are, but because you got to click on the URL and then I can see your name unless you type it in chat. I mentioned about how much I make every month and I started talking about health insurance and we kind of got off key here. But for the last 2 hours, we've been talking about 3D printing and things like that. So if you rewatch the video, that's where we went. I try not to talk about other subjects, but I started it by bringing up my income and different things. So anyway.
Well, it sounds like people don't want us to go down that path, so we won't.
Yeah, I typically don't go do that unless I'm going to hang out. I usually don't go there. I try to stay on hobby stuff. But anyway.
For me, it's very simple. I'm going to vote for Yum Yum, and I'm going to try to enact the ETP protocol. ETP, eat the politicians. You fix all of our problems and you solve world hunger all at the same time. I hope they run. I like when my dinner runs. You still got a few more questions?
What's that?
You still got a few more questions?
Okay, let me go back and look here. Okay, that was Chris. All right, Chris. I'm not seeing any more questions pop up. Well, we've been going almost 2 hours here. We went an hour over. So
Fragger says Nerys for White House. Yeah, if there was any chance of me getting the White House, they'd just assassinate me because I'd be looking to eat them all.
The only thing I'll say about politics here is in my life experience of 56 years, anyway, people start out young wanting to get into politics and do the right thing and make a change. But at some point along the way, they start making so much money and they get influenced by other people and things never turn out the way they thought and their way of thinking changes. But originally they had the right idea. But, as you can see, things turn out differently. So,
too much money in it.
Yeah. You got to kind of do what you're told when you're at some point in your life and to play ball if you want to keep your job. So anyway, do you have anything? Oh, let me jump into the last question here. Do you have any advice to other content creators on YouTube or other platforms on doing videos and reviews that you'd like to say?
All right. I am not an expert at this. In fact, I don't even fully understand why my channel is successful. Even ignoring this pandemic, I was making $1,200 a month. Not enough to live on in Pennsylvania, but enough to live on here. The reality is I have 16,000 subscribers. I have no business making the kind of money I am on that. I mean, you were saying you're not making any money, but I'm making a lot relative to 16,000 subscribers. It's unusual for someone with a channel as small as mine, and it is small, to make a livable income, even out here. It's just not common. So I'm always expecting the other shoe to drop and for everything to stop working. But the few things I have learned is that if you want to make the income of 40 hours of work, you have to put 40 hours of work into it. If you now, of course, there are always exceptions, but if you think you're going to start a YouTube channel, put an hour a week into it, and make $1,000 a month, you're insane. It's never going to happen. You need to put full-time work to get full-time income. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, there are exceptions, of course. Somebody hits that niche just right and they take off. It can happen, but it's not sustainable over the long run. The other thing is to find a niche you can fill. If I were to create a YouTube channel right now, it would probably not be reviewing 3D printers, simply because that's a niche that's pretty well filled in a very limited market. It's going to be hard for you to cut your chunk out of that market, although 3D printing is growing, so there might be a comeback for that. I don't know. You got to find a niche. You got to find an audience. Hope you can recognize it and try to do your best to fill it. The other thing you have to do is diversify your income sources. You need to diversify your income sources as much as humanly possible. We are basically PBS. We are a public broadcasting system, but even worse, we're for profit with no actual backing from any kind of tax base. So we're like Fox News, we're like CNN, we're like HBO. We make content, we offer that content up basically for sale to the world, and that's how we make our income. The problem with that is your income stream is dependent upon somebody else's platform. Just look at the gun channels that went poof over the last couple of years when YouTube started demonetizing the crap out of them, even though they weren't doing anything wrong. The point is, right or wrong, this is YouTube's platform, and they can do basically whatever they want with it. That's Patreon's platform. They can do basically whatever they want with it. That's Amazon's platform. If they decide you're going to get 1% now instead of 4%, that's the way it is. So the more you can diversify your income streams, the more resilient your overall income becomes to interruption. So if I have my income pretty even between 5 different sources, one of them dying isn't going to cripple me. But if one of my income sources is 80% of my income, and then that one becomes crippled, well, now I'm living on the 20% that was left. So the more you can diversify your income sources, the better. Also, when people support content creation like this, where you're not actually selling a product, it's an impulse decision. I want to give him $5. If you don't have a way for him to give you $5 in the next 30 seconds, you're not getting it. Because he'll be on another video, he'll have forgotten about it. Nothing malicious, it's just the way people are. They move on. All right, so you've got to grab them while you got them. So you need that PayPal link, you need that Patreon link, you need that coffee link, you need that Teespring link, you need those affiliate links. You need to have as many different ways as possible for people to support you. You say, well, I don't want to use Patreon, I have PayPal. Well, that's great for the people who have PayPal, but not so great for the people who have Patreon and don't have PayPal. Some people they're fine with PayPal and they hate Patreon. Some people are fine with Patreon and they hate PayPal. So you have to have all of them so that it's as painless as possible for people to go, yeah, I want to support him. Click, and there's the support. The more painless you can make that, the better off you'll be. The only one I discourage is super chats, and that's because YouTube feels they have a right to take 30% of it.
And keep it for 90 days. Yeah.
So if someone gives you $10 in super chat, you get $7. If someone gives you $10 on PayPal, you get $9.70. Big difference.
My first super chat was 2 weeks ago. The first man, Marcel, gave me $1, and then when Joel was on a few days later, Joel threw me $5, and then I wound up making $75, which that's before the 30% is taken out.
Yeah.
And that completely floored me because that's never happened before. But once I got over 1,000 subs and I was able to have super chat turned on, right now I've got 1,700 subs and slowly growing. I keep trying to put out 2 or 3 videos a week when I can. And a lot of people say, well, most of the stuff I get that I review, I buy. Once in a while, I get something free, and I've got a few things coming in the mail now. And people go, well, you got this printer free. But one thing they're not seeing, you build the printer, you do videos, you edit the videos, you post pictures. It is a ton of work and hours and time to do all that. So actually, I didn't get it free. Your time is money. So if I paid myself $25 an hour or $20 an hour, I went way past the value of that printer just doing the content and reviews and answering questions and posting pictures. And a lot of people don't think about that. If you get something free and you're never online showing it off, well, yeah, you got a great deal. But if you're doing content, there's a lot of work behind getting that free item. So it's not really free.
What people don't realize is saying something like that is as stupid as saying the money you got from your McDonald's paycheck was free, because it was McDonald's job, not yours. But you did the work. And the compensation for that work was pay. All right. In this instance, he's doing work. And compensation for that work is the printer. They don't just give him a printer and say, hey, here you go, free printer. That's not how it works. They expect quid pro quo. They expect something in return from him. Do you know how many offers I got for sponsorship and support and stuff on this channel that I've had to turn down because it would violate my moral principles? Because there's one thing you have to remember as a content creator. You have to remember who's boss. You have to remember who's in charge. You have to remember who the employee and the employer is. As a content creator, you are the employee. Who is your employer? Your employer is your viewer base. If you violate the trust of your user base, you're dead. Because the moment the user base figures out that you have abandoned and forsaken them for money, blood money, so to speak, from some vendor to shill, you're done. They'll abandon you.
Always be honest. If you find something wrong with the printer and you don't like it, tell everybody. Don't sit there and pat it over or cover it up. Be honest about everything. As long as you're honest, you always have people love what you do and want to come back to see more. So don't ever. And I've had companies approach me, want me to review other products. I'm hobby based, so if it's around my hobby, laser, CNC, 3DM, resin, FDM, I will do it. Yeah. I don't review other products, and at least I haven't at this time. But at some point, if I can tie it to my hobby, then maybe I will. But
that's why now this might not work for everybody. You got to figure out your niche, all right? But I saw a lot of people having problems when they use affiliate links and they receive stuff and things like that. And people complaining, well, you should be doing this for free for us. Well, I have an electric bill. I have a water bill. I have health insurance. I have food to buy. I have car insurance. I got to pay someone, $550 in a month or so to replace the heater core on my pickup truck. That's not free. And so I chose the path of open book transparency. When I actually started my YouTube channel with no intention of profiting from it. I am a pay it forward kind of personality. I believe if I have all of this material, what is the use of it if I don't share it with people? So that's why I have 20 years of NARM pictures posted on a website that I never made a single penny from. Because what's the point of taking 3,000 pictures of rockets if nobody can see them? What's the point? Okay, so I was just posting content. Now, how did my YouTube channel start? That's interesting. Okay, I was not monetized. I didn't even know I could be monetized. That's an interesting story in its own right. But some guy messaged me. I want to say Jim or Frank. I'm pretty sure it's Frank. I don't remember exactly. It's probably not a real name because he was Chinese. It's probably his American selected name. But a lot of times they'll take on an American name just because it's easier to interact with Americans. He says, "Would you like a free printer?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Because at the time I had a MakerBot Mini that I got used on eBay, and I had the Wanhao Duplicator V2, and not the Wanhao one, the Monoprice i3 V2 version of it, the OEM'd. And he's like, "Well, no, seriously, a free printer." I was like, "Yeah, what's the catch?" "Nothing. I'll send you a free printer. You do a review on your channel. Sign up for this affiliate account." I was like, "I don't need that." So I figured, what could I possibly make? Yeah, good thing I didn't say no to that. But he wanted the affiliate account so he can track the progress, see how many sales, see how many people I drove to GearBest. Makes sense. And so I was like, sure. And I got a CR10. And it exploded from there. And I realized, oh my God, I can actually make a living doing this. People don't, if you want to understand why self-employed people are self-employed, part of it is, you want independent wealth. But also part of it, even if you're not wealthy, I make less than minimum wage. I put over 40 hours a week into this channel, and I make less than $12,000 a year. You do the math. That's well under minimum wage. But you know something? I'm earning a living, and I don't have to suck anybody's junk to get it. I don't have to crawl to McDonald's corporate and suck their junk to get, $11 an hour. I can make it on my own. And if I fail, it's because I failed, not because some company decided to downsize. And
let me answer Chris's question real quick.
Sure.
Chris, the new resin printer, I want to get the new LU Saturn when it comes out here at Amazon in the US, when I can buy it, when I get my tax money back, whenever they release it, I'd like to get that. The new Anycubic, I haven't done any research on it. I don't have it. I don't know anything about it. And currently I'm broke. So
do some research on the Anycubic. I've heard very good things about it, and people like it better than the Saturn, I think. You might also want to instead use that tax check to pay off some of your credit cards and see if maybe you can get a company to send you a printer. And then you just do the work.
As an answer to another company that I contacted, and they said that have you pay for it, you'd ship it back. Their reply to me was to get a hold of Maker Geeks or Maker somebody, I forget the name, that sells a zillion different printers, and see if they'd let me review one that they sell. which obviously they're not going to do that. So they never gave me the answer.
I'm guessing you talked to Frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're a small company, and they just don't have the resources to send out review units.
Yeah.
It's hard for a small company. I'm sorry.
I'm not a big YouTuber, a huge person, so that's not going to happen.
Well,
but
your value add isn't eyeballs on YouTube. Your value add is the finishing work you do on these models. All right, you're going to produce finished works of what these printers can do, and that's what's going to draw people to those. They're going to say, "Wow, he did that. I want what he did to do that." Okay, so that's your value add.
I've had a lot of people on Facebook follow me throughout the years. They love what I post, and I've unfortunately got a lot of people into 3D printing by things that I posted in the past. And
so create a portfolio of all of your nice prints that you've painted and present that to someone like Anycubic and say, hey, would you want to maybe engage in a partnership? I'm looking into getting into large-scale resin. Here's a portfolio of all the work I've done with FDM. I would make similar prints using your printer, which should be beneficial to both of us. I would get the large printer that would allow me to do this. You'll get the exposure of these finished projects over the next 6-8 months that are going to showcase what your printer is capable of. That might be something to entice them. They might say, hey, you know something? That'd be worth one printer to maybe get that. So, see what happens.
When I got the Ender 3 V2 Creality sent me from China, I got it in like a week, really fast shipping. I've done 5 videos on that so far. And then whenever I have a reason, I'll do another. And whenever a company approaches me, I can do multiple videos if I can find a reason to do something. And then even if I don't do a video, in updated videos, when I print or show something, I mention what it was printed on. Like TH3D Timothy, I've been plugging him for years because I use his parts on my printers. And when I talk about what I printed it on, I always bring his name up. Not that I have to, because I enjoy and like the parts from that person, and I always bring up that company.
Ask them to set up an affiliate account.
I do have an affiliate account with TH3D.
Perfect. One more avenue source.
Easy boards, and I burned up all my affiliate money doing that. Astro Printer. Yeah, you'll get there. Just keep producing content and it'll happen. I used to watch my numbers, ignore your numbers. It's like Christmas. It will come and eventually you'll get there. I'm at 1,700 now. It took me forever to get to 1,000. Now I'm at 1,700 and growing. My channel over on Facebook, 3D Printing and Painting 3D HP, I've got almost 5,000 subs. And whenever you join my group, I ask people to please subscribe to me and join me on YouTube. And a lot of them say no, or I'll think about it. And I'll still let them join my group. I don't care. But at least I asked them. And if all those people were on my group, my channel on YouTube would be a lot larger. They're not all here, but I wish they were. It just takes time. And a lot of people don't like YouTube. I don't know who, and then there's a lot of people that don't like Facebook. I understand why. And then Instagram, Twitter, and then I got 3dhp.net, a page I built where I post a lot of things that I do. I don't work on it that much, but there's all my links at 3dhp.net.
Well, something to keep in mind when it comes to monetizing on YouTube. Okay. YouTube is a business. Their purpose is to make money. If you can't make them money, they don't care about you. That's normal. Okay. Now, the purpose here is you need to get to 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers. At that point, you can monetize. At that point, everything changes. Okay. But until you get to that point, it's a effing grind. You just have to bend over, lick the dirt, and grind away. And the way YouTube sees it, if you suffered and ground away long enough to get to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, maybe now it's worth investing some time into you. Because if they invest any algorithm time into your channel, they're potentially taking algorithm time away from another channel that's already making them money. So they're gambling on, if we now give you some algorithm time, you might make us more money. You might do a better job of bringing more eyeballs to YouTube, which will make YouTube more money and make you more money. So you're going to make potentially hundreds of videos before you get to that point where you're making enough content to where you get that 1,000 subscriber. I mean, my second channel, Life of Nerys, I'm at 770 subscribers. I need 230 more. I've already passed the watch hours. but I haven't hit the 1,000 yet. Once you hit the 1,000, things will accelerate a little bit because now you are monetized, and now YouTube has a vested interest in putting your videos in front of eyeballs because they will make money from them, and you will make money from them. Now,
TK, you're a moderator for Chris on his channel, right?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead and post a link to his other channel if you would, TK, and then people can click and subscribe.
Just go to Nerys.com. Nancy Eckert, my name on the screen there, .com. And that contains links to all my channels.
And below in the description, I've got a link for Nerys also.
Now, there's also a second point you have to be careful with on YouTube because you might only get this chance once. Either someone will take you under their wing, okay? So my break in YouTube, I had 2,500 subscribers. My break was when Joel Telling picked my channel to be one of the 10 that he showcased on an episode he did. Me and one other channel are the only ones that kept our subscribers when that thing was over. Basically, subscribe to these channels and you're gonna be entered to win a printer. And most people, they lost all those subscribers when the contest was over. I feel bad for them. That's the way those contests tend to work. The two of us got lucky, and we got lucky. The right people subscribed. They liked us, and we were able to hold on to that subscriber base. But that means you have to make content, and you have to make a lot of it. You got to give them a reason to come back. Now, don't worry about the fact that you're not making any money on those early videos, and you're not. You'll make money on those videos later because that's back channel content. That's what do you call that when you have old content? You know, I forget in the record industry. There's a name for that.
Retro?
Catalog content, or it's catalog content, stuff that's already there. And at some point, you'll either be, angel invested by somebody who will help boost you. I try to do that sometimes. I'll promote a channel because I have the ability to back catalog. That's it, back catalog. Because eventually people are going to start watching your back catalog, and then you'll monetize it.
I also use TubeBuddy. I pay $5 a month for it. And what that allows you to do, whenever you look at anybody else's videos or go to their channel, you can see what their tags are and things that they do behind the scenes to help improve your own channel.
And then there's also a point at which this usually happens around, this is a guess on my part. I am not an expert at this. Please don't take this as expert advice, but it's usually around 10,000 subscribers where the algorithm will decide to bless you. And you'll have a sudden explosion of new users. You need to prepare for that. And if it happens, you better get your ass up on that bull and grab those horns and ride it, because it might not happen a second time. If you get that surge, you better be ready to put out some good quality content. Right? It's important that you're ready for that surge. Mine was a little slower, so it was a little easier for me because I got helped out by Joel. But if you're one of those people where all of a sudden your views are going up tenfold, ride it like your life depends on it, because it does. And if you succeed, you'll be 50,000, 80,000, 100,000, and once you get 150,000 subscribers, even 100,000 subscribers, it's as long as you continue to make quality content, it gets so much easier at that point. I get an average of 1,200 to 2,000 views per video, and my 16,000 subscribers makes me approximately $70 to $80 in ad revenue per month, average of 75. That's at 16,000. Now multiply that out. Imagine you get 20,000 views per video. You do the math. That's $750 a month. That's
if I get a check from YouTube, I'm going to take a picture of it. I'm going to frame it. It'll probably only be $20, but hey, it's $20 that it took me all these years to earn. I'll frame it and show it off in the videos. And then if I ever get Patreons on my Patreon page, once I have a handful of them, at the end of every video, I'm going to start listing all my patrons like other people do. It won't be many, and it won't be like Teaching Tech Michael in Australia that has a zillion of them going by for 5 minutes.
But he does good stuff.
One or two, whatever it may be, I'm going to post it in all my videos, so that will plug and thank all those people that way also.
I also didn't understand how monetization worked. The first time I turned on monetization, I turned it on for a couple of videos to test it. And I realized 20 cents, 40 cents, fuck this. I just turned it off. Sorry. F this, I just turned it off. Why force my viewers to watch ads for a quarter? All right? And what I didn't realize is that it's a cumulative effect on a rolling 28-day cycle. Years later, when I started monetizing this channel seriously, I realized that you have to log into Google AdSense in order to see, your content, how much you've made. I logged into AdSense and there's $450 waiting for me. I didn't even know it was there. Those 5 videos have spent the last 10 years made me $450. Now, it's not a lot, but still, that was a godsend at that day. I needed that money bad. So I was like, holy crap. And I turned on monetization for every single video. And I started making $75 a month. I mean, you say that's not a lot, but, the way I see it, that's $900 a year. That's enough to cover 100% of my expenses for a month and a half just from YouTube ad revenue.
Something I'd like to talk to you about other than on the stream is how, even though this is a hobby that I'm doing, but I'm slowly making little money here and there, how I should keep track of that and how that could benefit me on my taxes. It's like a hobby business, but it's not licensed or anything like that.
It doesn't have to be.
I'm playing with.
It's called a sole proprietorship, and it's called pass-through income. So basically, for your business, you would fill out a Schedule C, and that would just be on your regular taxes. So the point, though, is you gain an advantage that individuals do not have. Okay, it's part of what's so criminal about this country and the way we do our taxes. You do not pay income tax. Most of us, if you fill out a 1040 every year, you do not pay income tax. Walmart pays income tax. Bezos pays income tax. You do not pay income tax. You pay revenue tax. There's a very big difference between income tax and revenue tax. If I make $100 and it cost me $50 to make that $100, my revenue is $100. My income is $50. Okay. Ultimately, anybody who earns a paycheck is net zero income. If you go and get a paycheck for $12 an hour at McDonald's, your income is zero. Because your revenue was $12, but you paid for that $12 with an hour of your labor valued at $12. Your net income is zero. You gave up $12 worth of labor for $12 worth of income. That's a net zero. Now, if your boss gives you an extra $5, that's income. Because what is income? Income is revenue minus costs equals income. So if your revenue is $100 and your costs are $100, your income is zero. If your revenue is $100 and your costs are $50, your income is $50. So when Apple sells you a $1,000 iPhone, they're not paying income tax on $1,000. They're paying income tax on the profit that they earned from that $1,000. You, as an individual, do not get the privilege of subtracting your costs. But once you start a business and you are a sole proprietor, you can now subtract your costs. So that filament you buy, I actually have electric meters that I plug into my outlets for all of my printers, and I record my kilowatts used whenever I'm using any of this equipment for this purpose. And those kilowatts get multiplied by 18 cents, and that's an expense. This stuff that I get off Vine, they pay me on a 1099 with fairy money. It doesn't exist, but that money is what is used to buy these. That's an expense. As a business, you can write off all your expenses, and your income is what's left over. So your taxable income is what's left over after you deduct your expenses, which as an individual you cannot do, but as a company you can do.
One problem I had with my TurboTax every year is I try to itemize. I pay more money, like $60 or whatever. I itemize. I take all my bills, medical bills, add everything up, and it's only like 13 or 14,000 total. But my standard deduction for 2 people with the government's 24,000. So I always use standard deduction, and I could never do that.
But as a business, they're separate. In theory, I don't know if I'm doing this right. I got to figure it out.
Okay.
This will be my first year doing it as an individual. In the past years, I've always just used my corporate tax return for my dad's business, and I've just counted all my income under that. But in theory, if you make $10,000 this year and you make $5,000 for your 3D printing, and you spent $3,000 on your 3D printing, you subtract the $3,000 from the $5,000, you add the $2,000 to your $12,000 that you made, you're at $14,000, and now you get your $12,000 standard deduction. I believe that's how it works.
Okay.
So I need to confirm that still, but
I
it
need to
should
find the
work that way.
details.
But
And
that's
then if
only
that's
if
true,
that's
I need
only
to
if
dig
you
up
have.
all my receipts on Amazon and everything and figure everything out.
Yep, that doesn't work if you're just doing a hobby. That works if it's a legit business.
Well, it's a hobby, and I'm not actually licensed, so.
Well, you go to the IRS, or not the IRS, I don't know what it is. Go to type in get an EIN. You can. It's free. It costs nothing. They'll issue you an employee identification number, basically a social security number for your company, and you
I'm
give it a
slowly
name.
turning into a hobby business when I start selling everything and getting bigger and bigger. I'm slowly turning into that.
A lot of people don't realize the biggest reason I moved out here. Okay, well, first of all, the reason I chose New Mexico was because I told Google to give me a map of the country based on rainfall. And so I was like, okay, I want to live left of that line because I hate rain.
Anywhere in the country, it's going to be based on internet service.
Well, that was actually a go, no go for a house. Any house I'm looking at, the first thing is like, I need either fiber or cable. If I can't get fiber or cable, no go. We move on to the next house.
When I bought my property in Pahrump and I built a huge 2-story garage on it, 1,700 square foot garage.
Pahrump, Nevada?
Yeah, in Pahrump, Nevada. It's an hour away from Vegas.
Balsam Machining Service. He's in Pahrump, Nevada.
Who's that?
Balsam Machining Service.
Okay.
Bill something. I don't remember his last name. His first name's Bill, but he has Balsam Machining Service. He makes nose cones, rocket kits, body tubes. He's a big rocket vendor. He's in Pahrump, Nevada.
Okay. My brother still lives there. He has 2.5 acres. I did for quite a few years. Anyway, I ordered a couple pieces of paper, blueprints off of eBay, and I turned that into a huge garage, 3-car garage downstairs with a separate workshop attached. And then upstairs, I had a huge loft with 2 dormers, and I built that on my property over a period of a couple of years. And then I ended up selling the property. I took a huge loss on it. It was worth, let's say, $250,000. The market was dead. I sold it for a lot less than I had invested. I'm not going to mention numbers because you'd probably throw something at me and bounce it off my head. But it was, like I say, it's 2.5 acres, all poop dirt. So if you didn't bring in gravel and rock and build up a road, you couldn't just drive out on my property. You'll bloop and you'd be stuck. And at the time, I drove a 99 F350 diesel dually jacked up and a big 4-door. I miss that truck. I love it. Now I've got a 2001 Chevy Silverado. So my wife has an old Mercedes, like a 2002 Mercedes Benz. It runs like a champ, but the paint is peeling real bad here in Nevada. The clear coat is flaking everywhere. It looks like hell, but it runs really good.
Carport. You need a carport.
Yeah. And I have a 2-car garage turned sideways in front of the house. My house is this way. My front door, my garage is this way. But my garage is my workshop, so everything sits in the driveway.
Even better.
Could build a big awning and not attach it, but I've never done it.
Put up a carport right in that corner there.
Yeah.
And that's where you park your cars. If that's
yeah,
where you park.
I could. I just haven't done it. I have the background. I can do it myself, not hire anybody. I just haven't done it.
If you want to hire somebody, it's less than $2,000. A 20 by 20 is like $1,800.
Mm-hmm. It's
not expensive. Yes. But he's talking about good record keeping in case of an audit. The primary reason I moved is because I was making $24,000 a year living in Pennsylvania. I was paying 74% of my entire income in taxes. People say, well, low-income people don't pay taxes, and that's such a crock. It makes me want to take this plastic kunai and stab them where it doesn't shine. Because, well, for example, federal income tax. Most people don't realize that federal income tax is actually 4 taxes. You have federal income tax base, you have federal income tax payroll, you have federal income tax Social Security, and you have federal income tax Medicare. If you make $5, you owe 18.5% of that to federal income tax before you've even calculated your federal income tax base. You do not get deductions. You do not get reductions. There is no standard deduction. You have to pay that, 18.5%. Now, when you work for somebody else, Federal income tax payroll actually gets split into two. You have payroll and matching. So you pay half of it and your employer pays half of it. But as a self-employed person, no, you don't actually. The UK has a pretty decent tax system, I understand. You make less than a certain amount, they don't tax you. Now, there's other taxes. We'll get into those in a minute. And then you also have state income tax. People say, well, if you make less than $12,000, you don't pay taxes. No, you pay 18.5% of your $10,000 income for federal income taxes. You won't pay any base income tax because you'll be under the threshold for your standard deduction, but you still paid that 18.5% for payroll, matching, Medicare, and Social Security on every single dollar you made. The way to look at taxes is not by amount. The way to look at taxes is as a percentage of your income.
Fast food is taxed. Food at the grocery store here in Nevada is not taxed.
In most states here, non-prepared food is tax-free. Prepared food is taxed. And then you have property tax, school tax, local tax, county tax, state tax. You have DMV taxes. You have your utility taxes, your gas taxes, your sales taxes. When you finally figured out the average person on the lower half of the income spectrum here pays 40% of their income in taxes. One of the reasons I moved to New Mexico is because my taxes went from 73 to 75% to 34%. That I make half the amount of money here that I did back there, but I actually take home more. I take home $1,600 more because my taxes are only 34% versus the 74% I was paying there. See, nobody pays 74%. Oh yeah? Well, you pay 18.5% of the federal government. Then you're going to pay whatever your base 1040 tax is. For me, it was 9.6%. So now we're already at 28%. Already at 28%. Someone making $24,000 a year. Then you have the $8,500 I was paying for property and school taxes. That's 33% right there. So now I'm already at 60-something%. And I've just paid federal and property and school taxes. Now add the 3.06% state tax, add the 0.5% and 1.5% to local and county, add the adjusted for how much you spend. 4% sales tax is actually 6%, but you don't spend everything on food that's tax. You don't spend everything on stuff that's taxed, so it ends up around 4%. Then your DMV fees and your sewer fees and your utility taxes and your sales taxes. You add it up, it's a lot. Now, most of my problem was the property and school taxes. It was huge. And people say, well, you bought too much house. And I just look at them and say, mother effer, those taxes were $1,600 when I bought that house. Who in their right mind would think in 30 years they'd be $8,500? Now I moved out here, and my taxes are 4% of my income because I only pay $530 in taxes for this place. That right there was huge. There's also no local and county tax out here, although state tax is 2% higher and sales tax is 3% higher. But overall, my taxes are dramatically less out here. Just, it's one of the reasons I chose here. Taxes are an expense. So you do what any business does. You put yourself in a position as advantageous versus those expenses as you can. That's all you can do.
Well, I think I'm going to end it here. Is there anything you'd like to say to everybody going out?
Happy victims keep coming back.
Stay with me for a minute, Chris. I'll be right back with you. Well, everybody, we went over 2.5 hours instead of the normal 1 hour, but I really appreciate everybody stopping by and liking and subscribing. I would really appreciate it. A lot of cool stuff, links in the description below. In a few days, I'm going to have a hangout where multiple people can jump in and we can all chat about 3D printing and our hobbies that we're doing. I'm going to start doing that probably a couple times a week. When I did one the other day, it lasted for 4 hours. And then back next week, I'll have David Petzel on, and he'll be talking about all his amazing hobbies that he's doing and different projects. That's going to be really cool. It'll probably be on Wednesday. I'm not quite sure yet. I have to get with him. But anyway, thank you very much. Happy printing. Everybody, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
This one here.
And I think we're
All right,
done.
give me 1 second. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you very much, Jerry, for having me on your stream. Be sure to subscribe to his channel, give him some love, and I will see you guys next Wednesday.